Second. Motion's made and seconded. Any corrections, deletions, additions? Hearing none, all those in favor would say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Public comment on items not on the agenda, 3 minutes. Don't got me today, that's good.
Mr.
Manager's report.
Chairman, I apologize. I did have amendments because we didn't put standard items on the agenda. I sent it out earlier.
I don't know if everybody got it, but I would
Yeah.
imagine they did, but
I'm sorry, there are
You didn't get
copies
one?
I didn't get in
there.
there.
Do you mind?
it's just the usual.
It's like we forgot the manager's report. We styled,
Thank you.
right, we used,
Uh-oh.
Don't worry.
we used a special meeting format. Rebecca, can I have one please too? I'm sorry, thank you. And then we can pass them around too. So we need a manager
Okay,
report. So-
manager's
Okay,
report.
so, one last time, gonna remind everybody about the VCRD community visit. It's tomorrow, December 4th. Everyone's urged to attend. If you're watching this, you care about the town, so you should attend. There's 9 sessions, free dinner, helpful flyers about to be on the screen. So the first session is at 2:30. The dinner's at 6. You can come to any part of the evening that you want to, and there will be at least 2 follow-up meetings, one in January and one in February. Okay, Cherry Hill is open, the street is open, which is great, not the sidewalk yet, but the street's open. Reminder, the Robertson Paper Mill opening ceremony, the governor's going to be attending, so hopefully everybody can make it. That's on the 13th of December. There's going to be an affordable housing forum. The Senate Committee on Affordable Housing will be meeting here on the 12th, from 12:30 to 2:30 in the theater. So you're invited to attend that. Ski tow is going to be open by the end of the week. The ice rink is set up. Ryan's making ice. The parking ride, the new ordinance was effective on the 30th. Temporary signs are up. We'll get permanent signs there soon, but we can't enforce it now. And the sand shed, I know obviously with the storm, people are looking for sand. The Blake Street sand shed will be completed in the next couple of weeks, weather permitting, by Christmas for sure. In the meantime, people can get sand at the 103 garage. And that's all I have.
Anything else? All right, going down to the agenda. Consideration of a health order, 4-6 Parker Street. Mr. Wise.
We're gonna tag team the presentation. I guess I'll start with Wendy, and then Chief McGinnis, as well as Kim Ginsberg, owner of the building, is in attendance for this Board of Health hearing.
Right, so you're acting as a Board of Health tonight, and the health order that staff is requesting that you approve is for the duplex at 4 and 6 Barker Street. The property owner is here, and the property owner is supportive of this. The building has been inspected multiple times. I was actually fortunate to be at one of those inspections. The condition is absolutely horrendous. You can see the photos. The electrical system is dangerous. There is lead still on the, at least on the, is it the number 6 side?
The
And
number
a
6
child,
side has the most lead paint, yes.
yeah, a child had to be removed.
Yeah.
There is an issue, one of the tenants does not want to move. A reason to do the health order is that if this board says that the building is not habitable, which it's not, then that person will be eligible for more assistance than they otherwise would be. The owners knew what they were getting into or they thought they knew what they were getting into. I mean, they knew it was a challenging building.
Yes.
This process is probably more challenging than they expected. But the end result of this situation is unlike the other health order where we didn't have an end in sight. In this case, the new owner is planning to renovate the building.
Yeah,
So
I've
I
already
turn over to
started, I've started on one side of the building. I can't do anything to the other side. She just won't let us in. And as many times as we've attempted and tried, it's just, we can't, she won't let us through the door to even check out anything going on that could be fixed. So, here we are.
And it's a great building, actually. It
It's
really
actually a very
has
beautiful
good
old
bones.
building, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Lived across the street from that 20 years ago.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's, you know, Victorian woodwork on the inside. It's just a beautiful building to restore and hopefully rent it out to some good
Not much
tenants.
yard space, but.
No, not much yard space or driveway space.
Low maintenance.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're requesting that you approve the health order, so if you have any questions.
I noticed that, Chuck, you didn't have any pictures of the stuff that you couldn't get around, I guess. There was articles left all over the place. I mean, this is more of a safety issue, I think, than according to what your memo says.
Yeah, the memo alludes to the fact that we are unable to conduct a full inspection because of the material, this stuff in the way. So we haven't been able to access portions of the space that we need to. So it's an impartial inspection.
You need pictures of all the things hanging
Well,
around.
I just didn't mention it, and it was one of his notes said that there were, you know, there was stuff that they couldn't get to inspect because there's bags of stuff piled up in there and everything else blocking.
It's from the floor up to the ceiling and just
Yeah,
about
he said it
every
was pretty
room.
rough in there, so.
Yeah,
I mean, not denying his testimony, just that it would have been nice if we had the pictures of the mess, but I guess have to go with what we got. That's bad enough as it is. Anyone else have any comments?
What's the process? So once it's up to, you go back for an inspection, she calls you and says, we fixed all the items, you guys go back and give it the okay, and then she can get new things?
That's right. The work that's been done on 4 is quite comprehensive already. We're in a position that if we can re-inspect at any point and say we're all clear, then we're good. And this order reaffirms that process.
So your tenant moved out from the other place yet, or?
the tenant on side 4 has moved out and we've been there night and day,
Okay,
taking garbage loads out and
yeah. I was wondering.
restoring.
I know there was a problem, issue getting
Yeah.
turned out there.
And I do have pictures of that if you care to see when you have time.
Yeah, I'll take your report.
Okay.
It's the board's pleasure. Need a motion?
I make a motion, we approve the health order for 4-6 Barker Street, effective immediately.
Second.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Motion's been made and seconded that we approve the health order for 4-6 Parker.
So,
Discussion?
yeah, just so in the event the occupant is still uncooperative after this health order, is there an initiative or a plan to accomplish what you want to accomplish here?
Yeah, we feel like we're in an undiscovered country right now. We're trying to deal with this. It could be an amendment to the health order after we have documented uncooperative behavior and successful,
Right.
times,
Gotcha.
and we reapproach this board and say, we need to take this next step, or this could be enough. We just don't know.
Does the state get involved at any point?
If there's an appeal, the State Board of Health would get involved directly.
But did you guys call the state marshal in to look at some stuff? I thought I saw a note in there.
Something in there about the wire.
I spoke to the electrical inspector, showed him some pictures. So there's numerous violations in there. You can see I have black and white pictures, I think you guys have color pictures.
Yeah.
There's just some of the wiring is just totally not up to code.
So you're certified to do the inspection?
I'm not, I'm going to,
That's what I was getting around the back door with that one, because
no.
that way the state would be in there and it would be on them if there was a appeal, I would think.
No, actually, I think Frank Small had been in the building before, and I believe some of the, I don't want to quote, but I think some of the stuff that he had addressed prior has still not been addressed.
All right, we ready to vote? Motion been made and seconded to approve the health order for 4 to 6 Park Street. All those in favor would say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you. Okay. Have a good night.
Yep, thanks. Okay, next one on is Mr. Hammond with the Public Works Better Roads Grant.
Here's a schematic, sort of, just barely put this together, comes off the press. The application does look for some type of a schematic to go with it. This will give you guys an idea of what we're talking about here, so. Just to start off with, the 48-inch concrete pipe is clean. I think we kind of briefly talked about that last week. That's that, the pipe, not the red pipe, the red pipe is the corrugated metal pipe we want to replace. What's down below the red pipe, to the right there, you see the existing 48-inch RCP. That goes all the way down to Laurel Avenue, and then from Laurel Avenue over toward the playground. So that pipe is all clean, ready for a full 48-inch storm. You'll see the one that heads to the north, that's the existing 24-inch. That I'm going to work in, I'll incorporate that in with this grant itself, to clean it up. So what I've got, looking at the plan there, you'll see the structures are all built in place. They're cast in place structures. They're in pretty good shape. No sense in ripping those out. Those are the solid boxes you'll see coming down through there. So they're good size. The 42-inch, it's actually asphalt coated corrugated metal pipe, completely rotted out. The first section's rotted out pretty good, and the other section's got some issues with it. I have a video coming of the remainder of it. Chances are, if the first 2 sections are rotted out, I'm sure the rest of it's right behind it. If it's not there yet. So I put the grant application together to replace all of what you see in red, roughly 200 feet of corrugated metal pipe. We'll try to. I do have to, because it's over a 36-inch size pipe, we have to request a hydraulic study from the state of Vermont. That'll probably take at least 3 to 4 months to get the data back on that. It used to take 30 days if they're bogged down with all the drainage upgrades throughout the state of Vermont. My plan is, if we can get a 48-inch in within the existing cast structures, I just upgrade the 48-inch, kind of matches the 48-inch concrete pipe down below. If the hydraulic study requires something more, we'll look at maybe some other provisions upstream, maybe another, we can talk to the state of Vermont on that, maybe another detention pond up there to help slow things down. There is one up there off of Place Drive now. So the project, overall project, the way I've got it right now, replaces all that pipe in red, and the limits of work you'll see basically coming down the driveway. The limits of work to the left there at the bottom of the steep Elm Hill. We could stop the limit of work with a pipe, the 24-inch pipe, heads over to the senior center. The reason I picked way over to the right there, the senior center driveway, that's where the driveway is, but that section of the road's in pretty bad shape. The big cost is actually the pipe itself, replacing the material here. This is a smaller cost, this section of the road, which is, it's a good chance to actually try to button this whole thing up, but that would be the first place we'd have to cut if obviously things aren't approved. It's going to be good sized pipe, basically ripping up a good section of the road. The other way we could do is cut a little bit back, is actually just trench patch it. You're talking trench patching, putting gravel in for that. It's a premium price you're paying rather than a full width gravel, full width excavation. So the $180,000 does go from limits of work by the senior center driveway to the bottom of the hill and up to the Hyde Hill grate.
So how's traffic going to be maintained going up there? It's almost like in the center of the road.
I think we'll take a look at probably reopening up that access between that and Bramley Way. I haven't looked to see if that's actually right away through there or not, but I'm hoping it is.
the houses that are affected here, how are they gonna get in and out? I mean, the upper end, you can get them come from Bromley way.
During construction, they will not be able to get out of the parking lot. When they're actually doing the work right in front of the property.
The sidewalk's been eliminated according to your note here. Why are we proposing granite curb? What's the purpose of that?
No, we don't have to. Right now, there's asphalt curb through there. The town has started to go with some of this granite curb. It's kind of a way to spruce up this section of town a little better. It's not a major, let's actually do a concept on that. So that. Well, it's not cheap, it's 16,000. It could be eliminated. Longevity, if you do put it in there, chances are it will be there next time the road does need to be ripped up, or we can reuse it. It has to be adjusted, but that could be eliminated. The asphalt curving usually doesn't hold up for a long time. It would be back in there patching over time.
What's the comparative cost of the asphalt curb?
Yeah, that's probably $10 a foot.
Yeah, I do recall years past we had talked about going with the granite if we were redoing anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what you just did on Bourbon Lake.
Right.
Right.
Had you had this planned to do at a certain time, or is it, did you have this on your plan to replace it at a certain date, or is it you're wanting to move forward?
No, we want to move forward. Mike and I looked at last year.
Because of this grant, or is it?
No, not just the pipe is rotting away. Last year we looked at it thinking if we had funds in the budget, we were gonna try to do something last year's budget. There's no way not. We were talking the size and depth once we really looked into it. It was pretty deep pipe.
Last year, 2019 budget?
Yeah, last year. With everything else going on, there's no way that's even time to. We didn't even put it in last year's budget. These things are tight then. They are tight now. I mean, they're always gonna be tight, but this is $60,000. Not a lot, but my feeling is, well, there's a lot of drainage money out there. We'll keep pushing away to see if we can narrow that down to not a $120,000 contribution, but maybe we'll get another 60, or maybe an 80-20. But if you apply for this and get approved for it, doesn't mean you have to take it. You find it better, if you can find something better between now and then, we'll just deny the grant after we're approved. Probably shouldn't say that. I don't think they read minutes. But, but there might be something else we can team up with it. Additional grant money.
This says 120 from the highway reserve.
Right.
What did you just say about 60?
60 is the grant. That's the maximum for the grant.
What's the highway reserve at now?
536, wasn't it?
Or 563.
Yeah. That would put
Is that
us,
before or after the 120 comes down?
I think that's before, and that would be at the end of this, that's the end of this
400,000.
fiscal year.
right. The 443,819 would be after.
So you would,
And I'd rather not use any of that, so my feeling is keep looking for grant money to.
I would rather not use any of it either.
Right. I agree.
but ideally what you're looking at, well, you'd be looking at spending the 120 plus the $60,000 grant if we were awarded the grant, correct?
Right.
So the total about $200,000 or 180,000, I'm sorry.
Yeah, if you look at the bid specs on that sheet.
Yeah, I did.
In the back, it's at 177,000. From 178.
Yeah. So, even if we weren't able to secure a grant, what would we be looking at? We'd be looking at,
The 120. We would par down, probably we'll do as much of the pipe as we can.
yeah,
Which I think we probably can get all the pipe done and patch it. That's what we want with a new pipe, patch road. No, it's not gonna improve any look for the area. No granite curbing. That'll be tight, but I mean, if we had to chop off one section, we'll get it out. We'll do it that way. And this first, if you look at that, where the high and low grate is, this first one I was talking last week.
Right.
The first box right there, it's very deep. It goes from, I think it's like 8 or 13 feet deep. So it comes in 8 feet deep, drops down to 13 feet. So that's an area we can actually increase the sump by having a 4 or 5 foot sump there, by having that, a new pipe go straight through there, but have it cut out into that first structure. So we'll have like a 4 or 5 foot sump, and you'll carry the pipe straight through to the next one, the next structure. But it's a nice, obvious place to actually catch a lot of that gravel we're talking about. And we'll see if there's anything to do with the inlet itself. I've got $15,000, I believe, in there for some inlet modifications if necessary. If we don't come up with a good way of doing it, obviously we won't do any modifications. I talked to Andy the other day, it would have been nice if the head wall was kind of squared up with the backhoe, so it's actually easier to clean. Just on a skew there, doesn't make it easy.
So what's your plans to fix the grate? I'm looking at the picture in your proposal here.
No, it's just a picture, so there's no plan, the grate, they did a nice job on the grate. There is a little bit of a sump before it goes to the pipe, it's just a matter of, that's where if we had an vac truck, the handy, we gotta make sure we suck it out once in a while. Back will only clean so much of it. So the grate may not need a lot of modifications, you know, I was thinking initially like a plate of steel in front of it, to create another little sump so they can actually dig against that. And he's not sure if that will really help, but, you know, it's in there now,
Yeah.
we'll give it some more thought.
So we're gonna be, if we apply for this one, we're gonna look for some other funding. I mean,
Right.
I'm gonna agree in one respect with Catano's comment about stealing from Rob and Peter to pay Paul, but this is a situation that we gotta do something with it. I mean, it's gonna create problems all the way down the line. We just spent a bunch of money just trying to clean out the stuff that went in that line before. So, Catano?
It sounded like he's wanting to spend 120 whether we get the grant or not.
Well, yeah.
So we can apply for the grant and not get it, but they're still asking to spend 120. I think we should, I foresee other emergencies possibly coming up where we may need that money kept in reserve, like we had this year, several emergencies where we had to go in the reserve. And I think we should budget for it and plan for it.
But it doesn't hurt to apply for the grant,
I agree with that, but I don't wanna,
well, because we can turn it down if we get to the point where we feel
but
we
he
need that
said,
reserve.
if we didn't get 60 grand, we'd do it for 120. That's what he just said.
I know, well, it needs to be done, but we also, I mean,
I
are you
think there's
saying
a
we're
lot
not
of things that
applying
need
for
to
the
be
grant
done.
at this point? I mean, I think we should apply for the grant.
But if we do that, then he's gonna spend $120,000.
Not necessarily, we can come
That's
back
what he
to it.
said.
Yeah,
Unless we get a grant, a different grant.
Well,
We
we'll
could
come
get a
back
different
to you
grant. We'll come back
before
to
we
us with that.
proceed with anything like this. Well, we have to anyway, but we would.
So we're requesting now to apply for the grant?
Apply for the
Right
grant.
now, we're requesting to apply for the grant. What I'd like to see is a list of all the stormwater projects that we need to do in the next 5 years.
Like in the recent list we got of upcoming projects that you prepared for us, I didn't see this on it. You know what I mean?
Not on that, yeah.
So that's how I look at planning, budgeting. We should knock that list off, put this on the next. That's how I feel.
Yeah, that was a.
Because some of those could go over, something could come up, we may have to take from that reserve to finish some of these projects. May open something up, find out there's more problems, cost more money.
Yeah.
Applying for the grants, fine, I think spending $120,000 out of reserve to fix that, which doesn't seem like it was on the schedule, is the part that I'm discussing.
Well, if you go by the schedule that we're looking at, of some of these projects, proposed capital projects, there's almost, $8 million there. I don't see that happening in the next 5 years, to be honest with you, unless we bond the hell out of people.
That's not a 5-year schedule, isn't it?
It's only 17 years out,
Yeah.
Yeah,
15 years out.
yeah. But, you know, if you're still taking a look at this here, realize that we go up to fiscal year 33. Some of these projects, I think the High Hill project would fit in here before some of these existing proposed projects would be.
But you also have to match this grant to a particular project, correct? Because this is specific to this type of
Well,
work?
it's project specific for drainage,
Yeah.
increased drainage, riprap, swales. There's 4 categories. Category A is engineering, you know, for evaluations. And there's B, C, and D, so that's just, the B, I think, is like riprap. C is smaller pipes, and the D is the larger pipes, such as this here. And that list you were talking about, that was last year's list just updated. And that
But it went into next year. You had plans for some of the 2020 budget.
Right, but when that was put together, that's about the time, it was after that, Mike and I realized, you know, this pipe needs to be replaced, it's too late in the year, and that list was already come out. And I just simply updated to let, I'm not sure if maybe, I gave an update on that list. Was that what you just passed around? Email them?
This list, I haven't given them that.
The drainage list was like 6 items.
Oh, I don't think I did, I'm sorry,
Okay.
so,
I mean,
I had 6 culverts from a year ago, these are just culverts, and that one was not on the list. But this pipe is, I mean, when you're talking about rotted out, it is rotted out. It goes in, it's not even in the bottom of the pipe in that first section. The only thing saving is that first structure is acting like a head wall. So it's going in, dropping below the pipe, getting back in the structure, only because it's a huge structure.
This one up here, this first little
Right.
piece. So have we viewed these ones? This one, this one, this one,
Right.
this one?
The guys went in there, they're gonna take some photos of the guys that were.
They haven't even viewed it.
Oh, they have. And I have not seen that yet. But this.
This one's really bad.
That one's real bad. We've had issues with ground, with water popping out of the ground here before, so there's something going on here and here. And we are looking at these. And I should have.
I'm not opposed to applying for the grant.
No, I know.
That's all we have.
But in the meantime, they're gonna come back to us and see if we can find some other way of funding this. I mean, the other alternative we got is to, you know, finance it over 3 or 4 years. I mean, that won't add that much to your budget, and you can still get it done, because those people have been putting up with this for a long enough time up there. I mean, that one woman had her old cellar completely full of water the last time it was there.
Well, there's a lot of things that need to get fixed. We
Yeah.
were presented with a list of projects, and now, just like what typically happens is we get another one. So we got a list of priorities, because that fund's getting smaller and
Well, I
smaller.
know it. We keep stealing from it, and that's what I keep saying, we can't keep.
So anyways, I mean, without,
I think we should, in the long run, I think we should, apply for the grant anyway. Go ahead with it, and then in the meantime, try and figure out what we're gonna do if we don't get the grant.
Or if we get it. Both
So,
yes.
so we'll make some motion, we can get it on the table and either continue discussion or vote on it. We're gonna make a motion to approve application for the grant.
I'll make the motion that we approve the application for the Public Works Better Roads Grant in reference to the High Hill drainage project.
Second,
for 60,000.
do we hear a second?
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those who go in favor of the grant application would say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. This application approval. See if we can find more money than the 60.
Well, I'm just right now, we're gonna look for it.
I know you did.
And there's money out there.
Yeah, I know.
Oh,
We just gotta find it.
maybe it's not too late, but somewhere I read, aren't they basing where they're gonna award the latest October 31st storm? Isn't that's what this page said. I read it the other day, and it said they're gonna base rain event that occurred, blah, 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 widespread damage. Scoring of this year's bid will be revised. They're probably gonna look at places that got wiped out and give the funds there. That was a question I was gonna ask as to probability of us getting this grant. And then I read this page and it seems pretty slim if there's millions of dollars worth of damage from that storm.
And some of that, I believe, is going to FEMA will cover some of that, and then also after a FEMA event, there's always mitigation grants.
But this says specific right here.
Right.
In the letter they wrote, they said that.
But did you
Yeah,
also,
well,
We just
but
heard
you
about
also notice that
FEMA.
it says the northern portions of the state, so,
That's what I meant. We didn't get hit
That's-
down here
no, I get
this
it.
time.
But the determination from FEMA hadn't been made by November 6th when this letter came
So-
out. That just came out, what, last week or the week before? So
I mean, I'm just reading what they've said.
I
They're gonna
understand that,
base
but-
their,
but we don't know if that's still the case because FEMA has come into the picture.
Yeah,
It could
can I,
change.
the way I read this was the application time frame. The deadline is being extended in acknowledgement of that event. But the second paragraph, when they talk about the scoring, it says prioritize spending for projects that are providing significant water quality improvement. So that would be like detention, retention, that kind of stuff, versus just sending the stormwater away. So that's not really related to the rain event. So if Everett can push the water quality
and then where's
aspects
this
of this.
scoring sheet?
I don't know, do we have the scoring sheet? They might not.
Please see application and scoring sheet for more information. So I mean, just reading that letter, I was gonna ask you that, but I
It's
forgot.
right here on page 13 of 16 in the grant.
Is it about storms or just how it'll improve our conditions?
It's about water
Either way.
quality.
Yeah, well, the
It
best
has both.
management-
It has both, water quality and storm.
Yeah, we're going to have better water quality when we're done. We're going to be trapping the sediment instead of pushing it out to the river. So I looked through that, I can't tell you where we're going to end up, if we're going to get approved or not. But I think we've got a good chance, especially with the likelihood of property damage again. If this pipe totally blows out and it gets beyond and doesn't get into that first structure, then it's down the street. And then you're talking some major issues.
You got that
And
right.
there's no pipe to put it in.
So we need a signature, there's a signature sheet here, or do we need to authorize you to sign it, or?
Yeah, I'm sorry, we didn't have this sample motion, we should have done that. Everett, can I sign this?
I would authorize the manager to sign it, but I'm not sure if it's a signature.
On
It
back
just
page,
says it at the end.
one at the end that says signature there. Doesn't say who.
No, that's a letter of support, and I've already got that. So
Okay.
like page 16 and 16?
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
that's from the stream alteration.
all right. So
So
you don't need anything signed by the board?
would hurt just in case there is a signature spot, and the manager sign it. I recommend that.
All right, I think you're gonna move to have, make a motion that authorize the manager to sign the application. You wanna?
For the reference to Hyde Hill project? Okay, I'll make the motion that we authorize the municipal manager, Wendy Harrison, to sign any and all documents as related to the Hyde Street drainage grant application or recommendation for the project as highlighted here.
We hear a second. Motion made and seconded, all those in favor, would say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Violet's Bridge letter.
All right, thanks for catching that on that one. All right, so this is very, very draft. This letter is an outcome of the joint meeting between the two boards that we had. We said we'd start it, so this is the beginning. It's gonna change a few times, I'm sure, before it's finalized. So what I was hoping to get this evening is just comments that you folks had, so I could put it in a more final form. I did get some comments from the two regional commission staff who were there, and they were suggesting that the letter go to both governors. They thought that would be more effective, and to be more specific in what we want, which I think makes sense. instead of just saying, instead of just listing the problems, list what we want to get out of it and, you know, be more positive. Asking for a joint meeting between the DOTs and V-Trans. Specify a year that we want it to be programmed. So I think those are all good suggestions. So I'll I'll add those. I really think it shouldn't be more than 2 pages, just because really you should be able to say anything in 2 pages. Writing to both governors could actually make the half of the first page could be just the addresses, but try to make it all fit.
What I'd really like to see highlighted there is you mentioned one of the points of the bridge supports late 1980s pipeline that carries raw sewage to the Bellas Falls plant. Breaking that line of the Connecticut River would be a serious environmental concern. The other thing, what I'd like to see highlighted there is that line services Walpole, New Hampshire.
Oh, okay.
And
And
also
not only the environmental impact,
the economic.
it would shut down that whole
Yeah.
little mini mall.
Yep.
Little strip.
Okay.
Strip over there, right?
Yep, good,
If we
It
could.
would paralyze them, they would be shut down,
okay.
just like
Can't
we
park
are,
it anymore.
like we are. What about when the governor's in town next week, walking them over to the bridge?
I think it'd be great. Maybe not over the bridge, but to the bridge.
No, we're
Yeah,
right there. I mean,
yeah, no, that's a great idea.
Pedestrian friendly,
No, that's a great
because when
idea.
people see it, you know,
Oh, yeah.
like, has he ever, he's gonna be right
Yeah,
next door. It'd be a
totally.
Great opportunity.
Yeah.
Agree, yeah, the lieutenant governor saw it. The end of that ceremony is actually tours around, so yes. We will,
And that stop, Gary's right there.
yeah.
And I would really also strengthen the police fire mutual aid response time.
Yeah.
I mean, that is key, that railroad, I mean, how many times has Amtrak hit something? And,
Yep.
And with the upcoming bridge construction.
Yeah.
It's gonna be one lane.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I still don't know
That's gonna
how
be a circus.
emergency vehicles are gonna navigate
That is
that.
gonna be a circus.
Because
I'll
they,
tell you.
I don't think, listen to our concern about this side with the streetlight,
no,
just in general. And is that number accurate, 4,600? I thought it was more than that.
that's what it was. I'll check it, but that's my
It's
understanding.
still a lot, but I thought it was a little more than that. Josh Aaron.
That's what New Hampshire DOT has listed on the closure notice in March of 2009. They posted a notice that closure, and it's their figure, the average daily 4,600.
We could check with
And that's actually
our
the number.
V-Trans.
Yes.
That's actually the number you should be using, because once it's closed, the traffic's not going across there anyway, so.
Right, what the other number I wanted to compare it to, which I didn't have, so I didn't put it in here, is the number in the square now, because it's a lot less. I know, I
Well,
have
that-
seen that
that could
number.
be a
I
point,
mean, it's
yeah.
like a quarter of this, so
This should
that,
show
I
the
was gonna
reduction
show
in
that.
amount of traffic coming through here.
Yeah.
Okay, need anything else? You all set
No,
with that?
no, thank you.
Okay, so.
So
this
we'll just
again.
bring it back.
When did you want to bring this back around? When does that be in, do we know?
There's not really a
Oh, it's already
deadline.
deadline.
Well, there probably is a deadline, actually. But,
I didn't hear one mentioned over
He
there.
didn't say that.
Didn't say anything.
I mean, just in
Haven't
terms
forgotten.
of the New Hampshire, their adoption of the 10-year plan would be the deadline.
Yeah.
So we can find out when that is.
Debbie,
I just wanted to say, this is no light thing that you haven't included the memorandum, or reference to the 1994 memorandum of agreement. It's not a memorandum of understanding. Memorandum of agreement in legalese is a lot more important because it's reciprocal duties and rights of the two parties involved, that they have broken their agreement that they made with us. And I just think it needs to be reiterated some way, or the governors, our current governors, may never have read the 1994 memorandum of agreement, that perhaps it just included as an attachment or something like that they could get at, because it is vital that they understand they broke agreement with us. And it makes me wonder about every other memorandum of agreement or understanding that New Hampshire has had with Maine or us at any time. Have they continued to fulfill their agreements, or have they not? Have they done what they've done to us? And again, the Arch Bridge is due for a schedule of maintenance and repair, a regular schedule of maintenance.
Yeah.
When was the last time they performed maintenance on the Vilas Bridge?
Right.
I believe they were derelict in that duty some years prior to 2009 and just waited on it and closed it without performing the duties that they were required to perform on every bridge crossing the Connecticut River.
I don't know if that would make any sense, but I wonder if we should CC the highway administration and,
Sure.
Federal Highway Administration and our three representatives from
Yeah.
Vermont.
Oh, yeah. No, we want to CC the representatives
And then
from
maybe
Vermont and New Hampshire.
Environmental Commission down
Yeah.
there, maybe Environmental Commission also.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's, hey, the
Oh,
more
yeah.
people, more ears you get.
Right.
That line of
The
it.
greasy wheel gets its grease, you know, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, so.
What is the deck surface is what they're claiming is failing?
The deck service, I don't think they said there was
Arches
significant
are
destruction
beautiful.
of the rebar, so, but I don't know. With their last drone photos and I can't remember, I have to go back and look at the material they sent us when they did their last inspection.
Very minimal scaling. on
Yeah,
that
but the
thing.
deck's gotten much worse since 2009.
What's
You
the
get
deck?
trees growing up through it, so of course now we have ice in those cracks, so I don't know if they'll make any more damage.
That's a rugged bridge. It seems
Yeah, it is.
like,
They probably couldn't blow it up, just like the other, just
Wow.
like the other one.
yeah.
Yeah.
Passenger cars could have went across the arch bridge for another, till the day they tried
Just,
to
just like it, yeah.
implode it.
I just wanted to point those things out. It's important that they understand they broke the agreement. They should consider, the governor should consider re-agreeing to take care of the bridge.
Okay. Let's move on to the cannabis resolution.
Okay, and this, you saw previously, I think not at a meeting, but I sent it to you. It's been updated to be specific to the town. VLCT is recommending this. We talked a little bit about this at the meeting when Senator White was here. The current legislation is not what it needs to be for municipalities. And so this is a general resolution that they're suggesting all of the towns and cities vote on, and then we let the state know before the start of the legislative session. I know some towns are looking at changing the second paragraph under the resolved with different amounts of the percentages. I think what's most important is that that you support this. I think the percentages, that's gonna be a, shoving match once it gets to the legislature.
You notice that some of them are towns don't want to give away any of the money to other towns that aren't participating, so.
Right.
um,
Right, but I think
I
that's
don't
gonna be a different fight. I mean, the importance of this is just to say that that the law, first of all, be clear, because it's not even clear the way it is now.
Do you have a comment?
I don't think you should impose a local tax on anything if we live next to New Hampshire.
Oh, so you would say,
Businesses left a neighboring town when they impose an additional sales tax to Vermont when we live next to New Hampshire. Little Bellows Falls here, right next to New Hampshire, imposing a tax would consider someone where they want to set up. These are all new businesses.
right, that would be, yeah.
So they're gonna pay 17% supposedly Vermont state tax and an additional 5% town tax.
No, the state tax, there's various.
Well, 16%.
Well, the rumor last March was 17%.
Yeah, it's 16% is passed by the Senate. I believe Gwen was speculating that it would be lower than that in the final. I mean, we don't really know what the final is. So what paragraph 2 says is, the local tax of 5% with, and what's important is the, I mean, obviously the 5% is important, but who knows how where that's gonna end up. But the sharing of the revenue is what a lot of the towns are focusing on, because some things there should be sharing outside of the host towns and some things that there shouldn't be sharing. From what I've heard,
Well, I would look at this as getting more businesses rather than trying to get a percentage of the tax. That's how I look at it, because if someone looking at it says it's 17% in Vermont plus 5% local and it's 0% across the river, or Chester has 0% municipal tax, we would consider where they set up. I
yeah,
think these are gonna be new developing businesses, perhaps, new construction even. They could be big, could be large buildings that employ people, which is the essence of economic development as far as I understand it. It's, you know, it's tax, it's tough. People take that into consideration when forming businesses or moving businesses.
sure, so if the rest of the board agrees with that, I mean, you could add the word option, you could say supports a local option cannabis tax, or you could say that if there is a tax, then 75% of the revenue is retained by the host community. Have it flexible, you could delete number 2 altogether. I know the purpose of this is to give municipalities options and have the resulting legislation be as flexible to the municipality so that towns can do what they think is important for their own communities.
Does New Hampshire have cannabis
No,
law over there?
I don't believe so. I'm not an expert in it.
They're not.
Not yet. This,
Massachusetts.
not yet. But I mean, if you look at I don't need to say it a third time, but a lot of things are taxed much higher in this state, where there's businesses that tax liquor at 37% in Vermont. And we live next door to a tax-free state, so. I'm not looking to profit from a new business in tax. If they pay property tax, I think that's great. If folks move here and live here and work here, that's what I'm looking for, when this passes.
But it sounds like they're planning on putting a tax on it, so this enables.
State.
The state.
But we can opt to not put a 5%
Right.
local, like Brattleboro passed a 1% sales tax.
Right.
People
But I
don't
think
like
we should
that.
just put in it as an option. I think we should leave the option, leave it as an open option. And then we can decide, and if it comes to this, looking at what the state
We
tax
can
is.
do whatever we want. I'm not in favor of a local tax at all on a business that already pays a lot of tax to operate in Vermont.
And this doesn't obligate you to create a tax at all. It just says that, it does say that you support a local cannabis tax, but it doesn't even say you support it necessarily here. You could support it in Springfield with 5% of the revenue.
Well, that's not what this says, that when they say that, the town, I'm assuming they're talking about our town, because it's titled Town of Rockingham.
Yeah. You could read it that way, but this on its own, this resolution would not establish a tax at all. But I think if you wanted to give yourself more flexibility, you could add the word options, say a local option cannabis tax of 5%.
Well, that's just my opinion. If the rest of the board feels like they're interested in adding a local tax to a new business, that would be discussion. I'm not in
So
favor.
is this a VOCP template that went?
This is exactly what they recommended, yes. Because they want towns to be able to tax it. Because the thought is that there's going to be additional public safety especially, requirements, possibly planning, zoning actions that need to be taken so that the traffic, so that the host town needs revenue to cover those expenses. That's the thought. So it's really an authority issue rather than saying
So
a
someone,
5% tax must be imposed. They're not interested in saying that because they want to give as much flexibility as possible to the towns. I'm sorry?
nothing.
I think it's fine as it is, actually.
I guess it's probably gonna be a happening thing, it's happening all over the place, it's inevitable. And if that's the case, then I don't see why we shouldn't, be gaining some revenue from it. We're always looking for revenue somewhere.
Well, I think it makes sense.
Because
if
it'll
it-
deter people from bringing their business here, that's why.
Potentially, but if it's going to be, other towns are also doing it, and I suppose that it
And
would
we
encourage
know.
someone to hear it, but also, if it is, I mean, I don't think we know what the impact's gonna be on our police, fire,
Well, we
anything,
don't have a
traffic,
police
we don't
department.
have any, we have any idea. Well, I mean, the village is gonna be concerned about this too, but, for the local tax. I mean, I think this, I mean, we don't know.
So then they
until
would pay a
legislation-
village and a town if they came to here? They would pay 10%?
I don't know. I mean, I think it was something we
If
would
someone-
have to determine.
This is gonna
municipality
happen,
would have to-
this industry is gonna happen. If we've all paid attention to what happens around this country, it's very successful. They've taken old buildings and put electricians, plumbers, HVAC people to work, put in a huge industry, employ people, pay taxes, property taxes, income tax, sales tax. If someone wants to do that and they say, hey, Chester, Vermont charges 5% of a large industry is a lot. So if Chester decides to not do this and they go, we're gonna put our 100,000 square foot building in Chester rather than Rockingham because we'll save $522,000 a year.
Right, but I'm just saying, right now, we don't know what's happening. This is just giving us, we would make that determination once the legislation is passed, and then we could decide by looking at all the factors, whether or not we want to put a local tax in or not. This is just giving that option, leaving it open. I think we need to leave the option open.
Okay.
Yeah, and
I
see-
disagree. I don't think you want to impose local taxes.
Well, we can have the discussion when the legislation's passed.
Well, I think what the tunnels, the way I'm taking it when he's speaking is that he has a problem with the tax initially, but he also has a problem with it saying here in print 5%. So I'd be more apt to lean to, and the town supports a local cannabis tax at its discretion and remove the terminology, the words of 5%. That way it seems to me that it's open for future discussion this year. It's like,
That's fine too.
you know, I mean, as I read into this document the other night, it says in the matter of taxation, the use and assessment of fees is also addressed in the legislation. The bill does not explicitly state the exact fee amounts. Rather, the cannabis board, which will have no input or actually no control locally, will make the determination as to the appropriate fees. Then there's some comments here about zoning. I don't know if you've seen this. Okay.
I'm thinking more of like industrial. I'm not thinking of a retail store. So I'm thinking of someone, so it's not going to affect our police department. They're going to have their own security in a place that produces product and moves it. So I don't see added expenses. What I see are jobs and people paying property tax or filling new buildings or vacant buildings. And the difference in a 5% tax, if there's not one in Springfield or not one in Putney, would be a determining factor for some of these people. This is a large industry that's going to happen, and it's going to happen in Vermont, and more tax is going to deter people from where they open their business. More tax. They're already going to be paying tax. They're going to be paying a lot of tax. And when they employ people from everything, income tax, property tax, everything. Maybe that people will buy an old home because they want to, you know. it deters people when you put additional taxes on things. In this state, it's tough.
Well, I don't see the fact that other towns are not gonna jump on a bandwagon if they see a revenue,
They're gonna
stream
get
of-
revenue in other ways,
What other ways?
bringing businesses to their town that employ people. Large businesses. These are gonna be large businesses
Yeah,
that need large spaces
right.
in vacant buildings where they're not receiving any property tax.
I know,
So that's their revenue, that's gonna be their revenue. Just like what happened around this country when this happened.
So
It brought
then-
in lots of revenue.
We leave it as an optional, or what was that wording?
The,
Supports a local option cannabis
Right.
tax, and that just leaves, and remove the 5%. And
Okay.
just, that leaves it open for discussion when we figure out what the legislation is. We haven't,
They don't even.
well,
You know, I'm not disagreeing with you, I'm
No, I
just
know.
saying, let's just
It's
leave it.
good discussion, but the thing that determining to me is getting a business here. I think they're gonna be big business, big industry. It's like, do we have a local alcohol tax? Like that would determine whether someone wants to open a bar
Yeah,
here
the
or there.
town can get a certain percentage of the.
But we don't.
the
We don't have it.
Oh, we don't.
We don't have it. So it would make a decision from someone who goes to one of the establishments to now going across the river to have happy hour. It's their choice. I think we pay a lot of tax in this state. Adding more, I don't think is business friendly or inviting to what I see as a booming industry that's happening.
so how about, again, the terminology of, that the town supports a local cannabis tax at its option?
Well, I don't think we have to make any decisions. I think it's just good conversation. I'm stressing.
Well, we have to
like-
decide if we're gonna sign this resolution, what the wording should be. So
Right.
we can
Yeah.
change the wording.
Right,
So we can change the wording of that second one to say a local option cannabis tax and delete 5%, and that leaves it just open.
right, and that doesn't even necessarily refer to this town having
Right.
that tax. You could be referring to a neighboring town having that tax, of which, and then we
Well-
would get 30%.
We can't direct some of the
Right.
town what they're charging.
There's nothing.
No, but I'm saying that's one of the purposes of this, is to just say you agree that towns should have that option, but you also think
Is that
that
what it
towns
says?
should share it.
Or is it asking about ours specific?
Well-
'Cause it's-
Well, if we weren't a host community, then we wouldn't have a
Resolved
tax.
by the town of Rockingham.
It's-
And then Peter would sign it, so I think he's agreeing to everything that's listed here.
Well, the other option then to the resolution would be just to strike item number 2, removed, because if it's not there, there's, it's not cast in stone, and then at a later date, if
I agree.
the powers to so be, could put it in there.
We're not gonna be the only ones to do it, so what I'm saying is, if we lost out on a big business because a neighboring town didn't add a 5%, 7%, 3% additional tax,
Because
that's a lot of money
Yeah.
if they're doing big business.
So I had spoken with somebody who was talking business-wise, similar to what I think you're, like whether it be a facility or whatever, but it would still be up to the state ultimately to determine, which I guess they haven't at the moment, as to what would be applicable taxes and fees, et cetera. So I think if we just struck number 2 and removed it totally from there and left the rest of the resolution as it is, because the tax, the fees are yet to be determined by the legislature anyway, so.
Yeah, but I think, the important also part of that sentence is that the towns get part of it.
Well,
So-
yeah, right, that
But
is
I think
important.
just leave it as, we said, it leaves it open by
But
just
that would
saying
be
as a
just-
local option, it's an option.
Right, but that
Each
is, regardless of the
municipality
resolution,
could-
that's something that will be determined by the legislature.
I know that, but I'm just saying for this, if we support, yeah, we could eliminate it, but why not just put it as a local option?
Well,
Because we do support that,
Yeah.
if such a thing, I believe, we support that if a local tax is imposed, we want to say that we should get part of it.
right, I realize that, but that is dependent upon, again, the legislature stating that, and they haven't at this point.
All of this is dependent on the legislator. This
Yeah.
is just saying that we support this legislation, these are the things we want to
Right.
see in that legislation.
I don't support
But what
that.
I'm trying to do is to move this along unanimously, and I think if we struck number 2, you'd have probably a unanimous vote.
Well, if it goes from 17 to 22%, it's not 17% anymore, it's 22%.
Yeah, I mean, we're
And the
hedging on
place
stuff in the
next door
future
is
that we have no knowledge
gonna have
of,
0%.
you know?
Well, this is the position that the league is taking, is that
Right.
towns should have that option of whether or not to charge a tax, and that the adjacent municipalities should get some of that if they don't host a cannabis, it's mostly retail. That's what they're talking about, because people think that the impacts, like to police and whatever, are going to be beyond town borders.
Right.
You're not gonna stop the impacts on town borders, so they think
For
it should be
retail.
shared.
For retail, I don't
For
agree with
I
that.
don't agree with that. I mean, that's,
I mean, it's been around forever, I'm not
Yeah.
sure what, it's gonna be less crime,
I
less police.
I should say that I don't agree with that. I hear you, and I understand that. But what happens outside of these borders is not my problem, not our problem.
I wouldn't expect Putney to give us funds, but it seems odd.
Yeah. Yeah, the other option was, is there a timeline on this resolution?
Oh, we should do it soon, because the
Then
legislature
we
should
can
start
wait till we have a
soon.
full board seated
January.
and see how it goes at the full board, so.
I think it's more important that you do it, even if you amend it, than not
Yeah.
adopt it.
I'd like to strike item number 2, if that would appease my colleague.
Well, they are also mentioning that it's a tax is gonna be, if it's a retail establishment, it doesn't say anything about a growing operation.
Would it
So
say
if
that?
some-
Right in that
Right in the
sentence.
thing, right, page 2, we'll read it.
I think a lot of
The
this is,
tax is retained, 70% of the 5% tax if you go that route. If the state may tell you you're only gonna charge 1%, then you're lost out if you don't state that, and it just says 70% of the tax
I think-
derived from local cannabis
I
tax
did read it.
by
I
the
think
host
that's
community of
generic.
retail establishment.
I think that's the generic statement.
Right.
What's a retail establishment?
But they sell it to the
Sell it
public,
to the
that's what it is.
I
As a
think
finished product, it's not as
Well,
a
right.
grow house.
Right.
there's nothing to prohibit.
It's not saying the farmers
Us
can't
doing
grow
a
there.
tax.
Okay, I don't
That's
support
not
that
in
either. I don't support local
If this isn't in
taxes.
there, there's nothing to prohibit us in a board,
We pay enough
a board in
tax.
the future from imposing that tax, so. The only thing that would prohibit that would be what the legislature decides, so. Again, I advocate striking item number 2
Okay, well, let's get a motion, because we can sit here and fight.
I second the motion.
yeah, I make the motion that we, in reference to the resolution supporting municipal authority in a commercial cannabis system, that as it's stated below, the resolved by the town of Rockingham, that item number 2, verbatim, the town supports a local cannabis tax of 5%, et cetera, be struck from the document.
Second.
Moved.
Okay, and you also are welcome the chair to sign this, if that's the case.
Oh, yeah, if that's the case,
Well,
sure.
you have to.
Yeah, after we
Take that
approve,
motion,
if we were to
Because
approve.
I'm the only one that's gonna sign this.
Yeah, and I authorize the chair of the select board to sign the resolution for the town of
Okay,
Rockingham.
we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of signing the resolution with item 2, paragraph 2 struck from the document, would say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Motion passes.
It's kind of like a poll, is what you're saying? It's like a poll, they're gonna take it back and look at what towns.
I think so.
all
I mean,
agree.
they're just gonna inform their
Continue
legislation, and then, yeah.
It could be 2 years, could be 4 years.
I think it's gonna happen pretty
They
soon.
said that 2 years ago.
Well, they're
Close last
most
year.
of the way there, and
Hmm.
people are pretty eager,
It
so,
was close last year.
yeah,
Good.
so we will see.
Okay, we're getting to the fun section, boys, and girls. But review,
Yes,
Great
so, we have a couple of things to give you that we talked about. We'll go into January on this, so that everybody knows this is a draft of the menu that we talked about, because there's some more things that we need to analyze further, that staff needs to analyze, but this is the format that we're looking at. So I'd like you to just give me some feedback, give us some feedback on what you think about this. So again, hopefully we can keep it to 2 pages, so we might have crunch it up a little bit. But I'll go over this real quick. All right? You don't have to make decisions tonight. I just want to see if you like this format. The budget that we have now, with no increase in the grand list, would result in a 9-cent increase. We're giving you options to reduce that increase. Some are additional revenue and some are reducing expenses. So the general fund is the first category. You wanted to know the tentative tax rate. Yeah, the 7.5.
Now it's 9.
Well, it's the same number, it's just somebody calculated it differently.
just
The-
go
the
ahead, just go
amount-
with the numbers you guys give me,
It's
98,000,
not the
that's
same
almost 2
number,
cents.
it's 7
And the
and a half.
273 is 5.5 cents.
Well, the increase, the proposed budget, this is based on the proposed. So I don't know where the 7.5 came from, but this is what we
The
calculated.
9 is with, general highway and, cemetery along with the library.
Oh, so maybe library, okay, so library's part of that too. Which you'll see.
Yeah, but that's true, we
next
don't have
week.
the library, so that's probably a different.
And also, the agreements, the local agreements, the 9 cents is with everything, we have to make some assumption for local agreements. And the library was what was not in
The original. Okay, so,
When are they coming?
next meeting, on the 17th. So, the first one, just as a sample, so recycling fees. And actually, I guess we'll have more to come from the chair, but, increase in, C&D fees from 10 cents to 15 cents a pound. That's 13,600 additional revenue, and then increase in garbage fees of 25 cents per bag, that's of the various bag sizes. That's-
Let's stop you right there.
Okay,
If we increase, not just the 25 cents single bag, but if we increase.
No, but that's increasing each group,
That's not what it says here,
but,
but anyway,
but that's,
a total, if you go
if
from
we
$1.25
increase,
to $1.50, and $2.50 to $3, and $3.75 to $5, that's a total increase of $2 you're gonna get increase. Buying the ball bags, you estimate 54,400 tickets, that's $108,800, and you're estimating $68,000 in your tank, so you can gain 40,000 in addition to the 10 cents, 10,000 that you're getting increasing the C&D price. If I'm not mistaken.
I did the increase throughout. I dragged it throughout, and I just used the $1.50, said we sold every bag as a single
But you're
bag.
only increasing the buck for a quarter for each bag. In other words, 250 would go to 275, and the 375 would go to $4. Well, I'm going a little higher than that. Gary and I have talked about it.
The 10,000 includes that, but.
And the other thing is that increases, right now, if you go to Weathersfield and leave your refrigerator or freezer there, you're getting $30. We're getting 15, because that's all what they're charging us.
Yeah, we can talk
So
about that.
there's other places we can increase the revenue in that department, which will help us out. But, I mean, if you start the argument, well, that's gonna reduce the stuff, I don't think it's gonna reduce anything.
If it does, great, because then it reduces the
Because-
expenses similarly to increasing revenue. So it doesn't, if it reduces the expenses or increases revenue, it's the same thing. But increasing the bags
the 20, to $1.50, $3 or higher, that would only result in 10,000 total.
Right, well, we can go over those numbers and give you, like, you don't have to make a decision on this
No, but I'm just saying
today.
that's
I just wanna,
that's the point.
but
Well,
let's,
which is it? So if we're getting more information, is it accurate? What are the numbers we should have in this?
If we increase
Revenue to 23.6, or is it not?
if just from doing the two things, from increasing bag fees, so the bags we were charging $1.25 to $1.50, bags we were charging $2.50 to $3, and so forth, that would generate about $10,000 in additional revenue.
but then Peter has some other ideas for
And
increasing
then,
revenue.
increasing the C and
Well, I
D.
thought his numbers were different than her numbers.
They are,
That's
They
my
are.
question. And then you said, we don't have to make a decision, it's just information. So I'm just looking for,
right,
Maybe
so
not.
we need to sit down with Peter and understand his numbers and bring you back more options.
can we just go over the bag part one more time?
Yeah.
What were you showing for additional revenue? I'll just write
It's
it
about
right
40
down.
grand.
Additional.
She's talking 10,000,
And you were talking how much?
40,000
If-
if you.
so if we-
40,000?
Because you're looking at, if she's going her rate at 25 cents a bag, increasing the bag rate, that's 75-cent increase. I'm looking at a $2 total.
$2 increase?
$2, right. 75 cents if you change, if you take the bag fee that she says is $1.50 and add a quarter to that, $2.50 goes to $2.75. 3/4 gets you 75 cents. If you go a quarter, 50 cents and $1, and a quarter, that's gonna get you.
Can I just put it in a,
Is this Common Core?
can I just put it in a simpler way?
That's what's wrong.
What's the math? What's the
I know.
math?
So,
I almost wasn't with you until the very end.
So if we do what we're both talking about, correct? If we take the, what is it, the $1.50 to $1.75, right?
No, $1.25 right now.
$1.25 if we take it,
Between 23 and 40.
if we take it from $1.75 to $2 and increase each group by that amount. If we were to increase our revenue by 40,000, we'd have to be almost just barely not doubling the bag prices, because we're only looking at 68,000 in revenue right now. So increasing it only a quarter or by that increment cannot get us another 40,000 in revenue. We'd have to be almost doubling our bag prices for that to generate another 40,000 in revenue.
Well, we'll sit down and go over those numbers.
No, but you understand what I'm saying? Like, you can't.
I hear your side, but I also, if you.
You'd have to be increasing at 75% to get it at 40,000. The original amount is only 68,000 in revenue
From the bags.
from the bag. So you'd have to be increasing each bag price by 75% to get another 40,000 in revenue.
Okay. All right, so we can look at it more, and the white goods, is a good idea. You do need to think about illegal dumping too.
Yeah, I worry about that.
Because, people are already dumping mattresses, that's an issue. That's just a potential, so we need to make sure that we, just have folks.
Well,
look
I
out for
think it's
that.
also, it continues to lose money. Like, we can't keep
For a recycling
operating.
center?
Yeah,
Okay.
just like rec center. It's two that lose money year after year
Well-
after year. So looking at comparable towns is a good idea. If
Oh, yeah.
people are driving down here because they can get rid of stuff cheaper,
Cheaper.
I don't know, yeah, they are. I mean, I've had some people talk to me.
it's the best deal in town, that recycling
Oh,
center.
Best
yeah,
deal
that's
in
why
the
we increased fees last year.
But I mean,
Okay, so
Yeah,
making them more comparable, we have to be,
right.
yeah,
I
Agreed.
don't think it's gonna encourage, that, people that do that,
are gonna do it
are
anyways.
people that do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
You
Someone
know,
paying 50 cents more,
some-
it's cheaper than a home, it's a good deal.
Something that I did not like when I stopped in there Saturday for a bit, I gotta commend, because no relation, but commend Peter for the efforts and time he's put down in there. I saw a subject that when I spent my extensive time down there on Saturday, who had told me that, yeah, I'm gonna get to the cashier booth and pay the fee. And that was, how long ago was the last time I was down there, actually, the whole Saturdays? And this subject was there this Saturday, and I think with Peter's diligence, that person finally, I think, well, I can't say they had the intent to leave, but let's just say they got caught up to, and they went over to the cashier and finally paid, and it's been how long since there? It's been well over a month since I've been down there for a regular tour.
What's this?
Oh, you're talking about the permit?
No, as far as, yeah, the permit or paying for the bags of trash.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I think if Peter hadn't gone over,
So these were two revenue items that we wanted to bring to the table, and then, other revenue items for recycling would be additional.
Yeah.
Just to show you, you know, just by raising these two, and if that's something you want to bring to the table when you guys were, you know, maybe we can come up with another 0.5 cent of savings in recycling revenue.
Yeah.
So
I agree with, sorry, I'm just jumping in. I agree with these. I mean, we might go into the details of them, but in other avenues, other revenue options, and comparing it, like Gaetano said, to Springfield, which is probably where a lot of people go, and
We get people from Springfield coming down.
yeah, well, they changed their bag rates, so that's getting more expensive up there now. But anyway, I mean, I think definitely finding areas. I mean, I would worry about increasing certain things too much, like you're turning in your refrigerator. But I think it could go up more.
No,
to be comparable to
I'm not
here.
anticipating going up $15 on a refrigerator. I was thinking more along.
But anyway, I agree, and I think we can move on from this, that recycling center
Because
fees.
we're not covering
something that-
expenses to
we
take
can
care of
increase.
the money that we pay for the stuff that they grind up over there. We don't take care of the food scraps that we're getting rid of, costs us $2,000 a year. I mean, a month. There's all that overhead costs and we're not recouping, and nobody's complaining about the price, so they all call in and say it's the cheapest place, even Westminster, who has roadside pickup.
yeah.
Because they get rid of it cheaper there, even if they're paying for it in their taxes. It's
I have a
nonsensical.
question. I know that Shannon had mentioned, like, looking into streamlining down there. Are you working with, like, isn't it almost like should there be a committee? Because I have some ideas as well.
we could do that, because we
And
are.
especially enforcement, because like, I think Stefan was saying, you know, not paying or not throwing your tickets in, and I think it should be 2 lanes wide on each side of them. So have we ever considered a committee?
So we could do a committee. Yeah, we could definitely do that, and I spent quite a bit of time down there this summer, and it's difficult. We have a lot of volunteers, but without increasing staff, it's difficult.
And we just hired a staff person.
We just
but
hired another one, and
Really
that's why,
recently.
yeah,
We need to do training, we need to update some of the.
yeah, but that is in
So maybe
process.
a committee or something, because
Okay.
I think you could probably get more volunteers. I think it's important that we try to sharpen our pencil with how much we're losing.
And, I mean, you're saying Springfield, every taxpayer, every person who uses that center pays $25, taxpayer or not, in Springfield.
And that, I also, I know it would be hard for people to adjust to, but I also think that looking at everyone buying a $35 ticket, because the taxpayers of Rockingham are paying the difference in their taxes anyway. So if the $35 fee covered the, you know, expenses, then they would just be paying the $35 once a year, and it wouldn't be reflective in their taxes.
Really?
If
That's
we
under
take that out.
the
of
ideal,
tax,
that's
yeah.
under an ideal situation, but I don't foresee that happening.
Then it's just the users that are paying for it,
Right.
and not, if you're a town of Rockingham resident and you don't use it, you wouldn't be paying for it. If we could bring the recycling center so it was at break even, then those that don't use it wouldn't pay for
Right,
it.
but you're
Right
saying
now,
it'd disappear out of the budget?
No, it would still be in the
no,
budget,
the
it would just be
revenue and the
supported by fees.
expenses would
Yeah.
Right.
zero themselves out.
Yeah, I just don't see that, I mean, ideally, that'd be nice, but I just don't see that.
We should form a committee. We
Like,
have deep
like a
discussion.
utility. It would
Right,
it would be
right,
like a
recycling
utility.
center.
I second that.
Don't see that.
Okay. Okay, I got committee going.
Okay, so-
I'd like to be on it.
Okay, so fire trucks, I have really good news. I contacted the bank today, and they are willing to refinance us, which would extend it 1 more year, so we'd refinance for another 5-year period, and it would be smaller payments, which would reduce the FY '21 budget by $100,000. We'd only be making $36,000 between principal and interest on the fire truck and the rescue truck, and have a balloon payment at the end when our debt schedule opens up, which would save 1.6 cents.
Which would be great.
It was-
We may need to do an article, but.
For the cons, when we discussed it,
Sorry, he just got back to us today. They're willing to do it at the same interest rate with no fees.
Yeah.
So we were.
that's what we were told
Yep.
originally when we went with that rate,
Yep,
because
and he
we were told there
solidified
would be
that.
no charge to
Solidified
refinance.
that today.
Great.
So, and I asked him, we just need the board to sign, it doesn't need to be an article.
Wonderful.
So that will be, they're working up the paperwork, and I'll have that for the next select board meeting for you guys to sign off on.
Great.
You didn't vote on the motion that was on the floor.
About the committee?
Yeah, you didn't move it.
No, that's funny.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna work on it anyway, but, if they want to make it a
Since they
formal
did,
motion,
he voted and she seconded it,
60,000.
I guess.
If you wanna make a motion on establishing a committee,
Yeah, Gaetano did, and then Sue seconded it.
because we never.
I make a motion, we establish a recycling center committee.
We have a second.
And
Sue, did you second that?
I did. I was thinking it was actually
We
a
never- we
motion,
never
an
put the
official
motion on
motion.
the
I'm
table,
just
we
saying,
never
let's do it.
Voted.
It wasn't, but.
All right, all those in favor of establishing a recycling committee would say aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion carries.
Great.
Yeah.
The next one, we don't have a number yet, the established fire equipment fund schedule, but that's what you were talking about earlier, or it leads into having grants be more predictable and having all of three of the departments work on grants. I think that's important, and once we can establish that schedule, which we're trying to get a meeting of the fire committee together, that'll have some savings. They may be long-run savings, they might not be savings in the next fiscal year. And then we're looking at possibly using part of the reserves, if necessary this year. And then going into the highway fund. I don't know if Everett's still here. We looked at postponing equipment purchases in the amount of $65,000, which is a 1.08 cent savings. We think we can do that without a huge problem.
Yeah, just
It
to,
does get us off the schedule.
it does get us off the schedule, and what you'll see is in the budget, the equipment purchase is larger, but we were looking to finance part of it, and we were also looking to trade in the old vehicle, so the 65,000 is what we were gonna put as a payment for this in FY '21. So that's why that's the only savings you would see, not the full 220.
Okay, right, so that's the net. And then the second one is adjust the paving schedule down by 50,000, and then that's 0.83 cents. The only negative to that really is if there's any catch-up to the fund. So we'll have, and then all funds revise the health insurance plan, that's gonna come to you at the December 17th meeting. It's
So the reason that, it's the village actually that has a significant amount of people on the family plan. And so the village is gonna realize a significant savings if we are to change health insurance plans, which is also going to come to you for a vote at the next select board meeting. So the savings, there's actually nobody on a platinum family plan in the town. So that's why the savings is not as significant for you.
And actually, the con that's down there,
Is
yeah, you can delete that. We're making it neutral to the employees. That's why the savings went down.
So that's 3.99 cents.
So far,
I have some notes where we could go even more and possibly add them to this nice little sheet. If you want, is that?
oh yeah, no,
Yeah,
we'll definitely want to add more.
If we have
and-
more too, this is just some.
Yeah, so is this format good? Does this feel like a menu?
It's great.
All right, good.
Simplifies it.
Good.
What was the answer to the insurance, is it incentive the other day for those folks who don't we saved, how much?
The health insurance incentive?
Oh, so,
I think you said there was
oh,
3 or
that's great,
6.
you know what? I don't have any of that savings in here.
Oh, okay, so that would,
Yeah, so, the individuals that are on a family incentive plan right now, which actually are significant to the village. So this is just the savings from the
Platinum.
premiums. So the health insurance incentive, we would be looking at saving, bringing it down by half for the town. And that would be on the next.
I'd like to go back, you mentioned, of course, it was, you had identified here as one of the cons, is the cost to the employee.
We got
No.
rid of that. That's why the insurance plan savings went down, because we made it neutral for the employee.
we don't want it to cost the employees
Right,
more.
so we were able to do that.
Right, but you realize that in the real world out there, and you see it every day in the news if you pay attention, insurance costs for people who work places are going up.
No, they're going up the same percentage they are for the municipality for the employee.
Right,
We're talking about just the change in the difference in plans, but they're realizing an increase in insurance premium, just like the municipality and everybody else.
okay.
Right, but this, we didn't want the structure of the change. I mean, you could feel differently when we bring it to you.
Right.
But what we wanted to propose was something that would not cost the employees more.
Well, I mean, you know, I've sat here before when healthcare costs have blown the budget. Scott, and the town and the taxpayers absorbed all that.
Well, we're not increasing our percentage, we're keeping it,
Right.
the municipality's paying 80%, the employee's paying 20%. So of the 12% increase, the employee is realizing their part, the municipality there.
Okay.
This is just changing the structure of the plans
Okay.
and making sure that someone moving from a platinum family to a gold family isn't paying
So,
additional out of pocket. Because the municipalities will be saving
Right, okay.
considerable amount.
And then, did you want to talk more about other things we put on the list? Because I just have one other thing to hand out.
I just have a couple questions whenever we get to it.
do you want to keep going to what you were?
Well, if we're talking about things for the menu, I'd like to hear them.
Reducing spending,
Yeah,
getting the budget where it'll be approved. So the, page 7, wages, recycling, I don't believe that number is accurate, right? I think there's a significant,
Increase. So it's one
I don't think-
full-time employee, and then also one of our employees is significantly underpaid, and it was bringing them to be paid the same as all the new employees.
we're talking about the highlighted number, right?
Right.
And it's explained over on the left.
but I don't think those numbers are accurate.
Well, it's 24 hours a week per employee,
We're getting 24 hours. It's only open
24
5
hours every pay period.
I say it's only open 5
It's
hours a
20
week. I mean, 5 hours a day.
So
10
20
a
hours
week.
every 2 weeks,
Right. And if they don't work, they don't get paid anyway.
5 hours
They're
a
not on
day.
salary.
7 to 1, 6 hours.
It's 24 hours every 2 weeks for each employee.
Why are you saying 5 hours?
It's 6.
Because we're open from 8 to 1.
No, you're
Hours
from
a day.
7 to 1.
He's saying 8 to 1.
I've
Someone
not,
has to be there before, you have to be there before.
Each employee works 24 hours every 2 weeks. They
Okay.
work 12 hours a week, 6 hours a shift. And they're open 8 to 2.
8 to 1.
Hmm.
We close at 1, and you guys wanted us to put those out there to close at 12:45 so we can have time to
Well,
pick up and get out of there by 1 o'clock.
well,
So
they're,
That's 5 hours a day.
I didn't ever want anybody closing at 5:45, but,
So, I mean, the only one that usually hangs in there afterwards is Gary to do his paperwork or whatever.
well, I don't know if it's a half an hour before and a half an hour after. I'm sure they're not walking.
I don't know what you guys got for a policy down there. Nobody, is Gary set a policy that?
So for as far as these numbers are concerned, we assume everybody works every week, because so it's 24 hours a pay period, or 12 hours a week per employee.
But if it's, the only thing I see different, you said something about a raise, but if you're adding 10 grand for your new employee, how does it go up 13? Is it a raise?
Because one of the other employees was only at 8. One of the older employees was being paid significantly less than both of the two new hires.
Why is that?
I don't know, and that was brought to our attention, and it's not, in my opinion, okay. So we can't do anything about it till the budget, but we're trying to cut that.
No, it's kind of off topic. It's not. Something for your committee, but. All the like copper and everything, like the stuff that's worth value. We're making sure we're keeping that and generating revenue.
Well, I can tell you from experience that when it comes down there, anybody that has copper, they don't get very far with it. It gets snagged right there before it takes off, and we put
By
it,
whom?
we put it in the building down here. It's put in the building and every so often it gets
Who
turned
takes
in.
it?
Donnie, Gary,
They bring it.
bring it right in there, I've seen him do it. And I've even done it myself. The metal that goes into the metal dumpster, you know, I don't know if you've checked, but the metal prices are junk right now. There's nothing, you're not getting any revenue from metal.
Okay.
So
As-
copper's the only thing that makes any money. Aluminum,
So this is the accurate number?
Yes,
Increase that much with that much percentage?
yes.
And that's why it's highlighted.
Another question with, same page, postage renewal advertising. What is that all about? Public education, postage renewal advertising.
Is that under the recycling or is it under something else?
Under recycling. 5.
It's about 9 lines down from the one we were just on.
Went up 200.
But what is it?
Oh,
700 bucks.
Oh, posted.
so
What
what
do
we would like
What are we
to,
advertising?
well, what we would like to do is we would like to figure out how to streamline the process of the stickers. And so for Town of Rockingham, we'd like to get them their stickers in advance. So mailings or whatever.
Put it in the tax bill.
That's what we're talking about.
Just like all those things that
Yeah.
were mailed out could have went in something that already had a 50-cent.
That's exactly what we're
Postage.
thinking about doing, but we have
Why
to,
are we increasing the spending? We should remove that line.
well, there would be people, it gets complicated when you just send it in the tax. I think sending in the tax bill should be the primary way that we do it. But then you have people who have like rental properties and commercial properties and so there would have to be some other mailing and some other mechanism. We're working on figuring all that out.
Picking them up doesn't work?
Well, it was, we had significantly increased staff for the renewal period. And we're trying to avoid that and avoid it down there because I spend.
Just do them at the town hall only.
It's really hard, you know. And we also.
It's an
want-
expense. It's $700. I don't fully understand what it is. And if you're telling me that's what it is, I don't think we should
That's
spend
not,
$700.
that's the $200 increase.
What is the rest of it for? What is that postage renewal advertising?
I'll pull the details and try.
Yeah, and I know some of the advertising is for the hazardous waste, the household hazardous waste collections. So those are actually important to advertise, to make sure people
Advertise
go
where?
to them.
Where are you advertising?
I think in the newspaper they advertise.
The hazardous waste drops. The
Yeah.
other thing is the pamphlets with the prices of
Like
everything.
the thing that Peter has.
The pamphlet for the recycling center that tell you how much each thing is and the hours of operations. And do you know what I mean?
I know what you mean. I just, this section loses money all the time. So if we could cut anything from it, we have to look at everything. If you can cut $700, I would cut $700. If this was my budget, if I was preparing this budget, I would ask, what is the $700 for?
Yeah, and actually, you can see it's going down. Most of that is because of
It's not going
a
down.
lack of,
There was
the
nothing.
equipment charges. No, I'm talking about the budget as a whole.
That's because we've spent a lot of attention on it the last couple of years.
I know, and we suggested the increases in fees last year because we had lost, I think, we were negative 100,000 the year before. So no, we're definitely
So I'm
aware of
just
that.
gonna
We wanna
ask
continue
if
it.
we could look at the 700 and make sure we absolutely
Yeah.
need to spend that much on postage, renewal, and advertising, if there's a more efficient way that's cost effective to do it.
Sure.
Yeah, my thought when I added the 200, because that was something I added, to think about how to get stickers out in a different manner, because we would at least need something written up to go out in the tax bills with the sticker, was because we ended up paying a sheriff and highway guys to be down there, because there was that much traffic that people were backed out into the road, and that was also with board members and myself volunteering their time. In addition, we had a sheriff and highway employees there, because it was that
Yeah.
much of a
Wait.
disaster for the first couple weekends. So my thought was,
We paid a sheriff,
yeah, and we needed him
No,
there.
that was a good.
with all those village residents, we couldn't use the Bellows Falls police officer.
You think that
They're up there all the
You think
time
that
on
would
that
have went over
road.
well?
They're up there
It's out
on
in the
that
village.
road all the time.
You think that would have went over well?
Probably would not have done that.
No.
I think we were smart having a neutral
But
park.
I will
person
tell you
there
from
than the
working in
local
it, that I would
cop.
not have felt safe with the amount of angry people without the sheriff standing there, because it was extremely hostile.
Yeah, it was.
It was extremely hostile, and Springfield, in fact, did the same thing and had a sheriff out there.
Yeah. I was up to Springfield when they had that.
But we won't need to do that this year.
No.
Were you saying mailing the stickers? Is that what you said? Or the renewal form for the stickers?
We would need to send them a renewal form and then potentially mailing the stickers
I
out.
thought you had to present your registration when you picked up
We
your
are not
sticker.
doing that this year, we're revising the process, because that did not work. It's trial and error, I mean, this was my first.
So how you?
I think it's important though, because you can have people getting stickers and potentially selling stickers.
How are you going to
or
establish
putting them-
residents? Who's a resident, who's not a resident?
Well, we can establish residency and we can also verify information without photocopying a registration.
But, well, what is your plan to do that? What mechanism?
We have not finalized it yet, and we have until July, we're working on other things. That system did not work.
But that's also why the tax bill is good, because that's really what the determining factor is on getting a free one, is that you pay
Right,
taxes.
but we just stated earlier here that, what about the ones who, whether they're renters
We
or?
don't-
Yeah,
I
that
live
makes
in
it
so-and-so's
more
house.
complicated.
How, well, how's it that complicated? You ask me to produce same thing when I go get a driver's license, produce a utility bill. And the
That
utility
might-
bill better be within the town of
Right.
Rockingham.
That might be a way of doing it. We don't have the
Yeah.
exact plan yet, but
We
we
could
know
get-
we don't
They're all
want to do what we
good
did
committee
last year.
Right, we could get a
Sure.
majority of them out to tax bills, and then we can figure out how to get rental,
Yeah, and
units there. There's not a perfect solution, we're working our way through it. Photocopying the registrations was, down there was not the answer, clearly.
there are only a few people who cheat that way.
Right.
Another way is to have the town stickers, the stickers for town residents be good for 2 years too. And that's a way, so that we don't have to
A
pay
different
for new
color, and they're good
stickers.
for a couple of years. We're
Yeah.
thinking through it, and a committee would be great, because that would be super helpful.
So just if you could look into if we need to spend $700 on those things, if we could streamline any of that to save postage, advertising.
Totally, we can do that.
I only have a few questions. You want me to ask my questions?
Yeah, go for it.
So, next one, economic development, here is sitting over there, but
What page you want?
page 8, next page. Perhaps it was explained, but advertising and promotion, in specific, we have Adobe Suite, $14.99 a month. It's not an increased item, but I'm looking at what we've spent and I'm curious as to why we anticipate spending that much again. What is it?
The advertising and promotion,
The $5,000.
the $5,000 in the budget line.
So we spent it on a number of things. We had ads for Robertson paper property.
What do you anticipate spending on for the FY21 budget? Why is it in there?
I will give you a breakdown. I will bring a breakdown to my, when I come back for the development budget.
Okay. What is Adobe Suite $14.99 a month?
So that is for the CLG Commission. In order to work with documents for posters, advertising, design graphics, they don't sell the licenses for Adobe anymore. You have to subscribe to them monthly. And without those, you can't do anything to a PDF to design them. And we do a lot with the programs that we have in the CLG, in the historic preservation.
It's extreme.
That's pretty low expense, but if you could just try to find out what the other anticipated $5,000 is, that'd be great.
Sure.
And take into consideration that we have to reduce this budget at this point. If there's any way to cut some spending, we have to do it. We have a long way to go, so. And then, same section. CLG projects, we also have, and then listed book, walking tour, YMCA.
The CLG projects, we also anticipate additional CLG revenue from grants.
Why the increase when we haven't, what's the increase, anticipated increase for? It's listed as book, walking tour, YMCA.
So in the previous year, our CLG projects budget went to plaster for the meeting house, and we didn't do any of the those annual projects that we need to do, like staying top of replenishing the walking tour brochures. We sell meeting house books and history of Bellows Falls books, sell them at the library, at the meeting house, at the bookstore. Those revenues come back and go into the town budget. You'll see in revenues you have a line item for books. The grant helps. When you see that in the CLG projects line, it means that we get a grant from the state CLG program that's paying for 60% of that. So we're reprinting books. The CLG state grant helps pay for them, and we're selling those to help generate revenue for the meeting house.
So if we reduce those expenses, we also have to reduce the revenue.
It's not just the meeting house though, it's
Who gets the revenue?
So it goes into the general fund.
It's in your budget.
It's a line item, you'll see it, a line item for books in there,
Okay.
CLG books.
And how about the YMCA, what's that?
Yeah, what's with the YMCA then? Why is that on there?
So a lot of Bellows Falls is what they call potentially archaeologically significant. So whether it's indigenous people's burial grounds, artifacts from previous cultures, that area is is identified as a high likelihood of artifacts. And the types of buildings there, unlike some of the industrial areas, there's less disturbance in those neighborhoods, and it's so we weren't discussing it now because the YMCA building hasn't had a determination yet, but if it's determined that it's coming down, when it comes down, we're just being prepared to do an archaeological survey of the ground under it. And that would need to be done. If a developer is going to do anything with the property, the the SHPO will require that type of archaeological assessment. So this kind of provides that. And one of the things the Historic Preservation Commission does is catalog all of that type of history and the archaeological resources. So it's kind of getting ahead of it, getting a jump on it a little while we have a grant that it's willing to help us pay for it.
How much is that specific part?
I don't know the answer to that. I can bring that to when we're on that on my section of the budget. I'll
I
provide
like
detail.
being prepared and anticipating everything, but if it's something that we might not need to put in this budget, it would be very helpful.
We have a grant, so for this particular increase, whatever we reduce the expense by, we would also reduce revenue by. Because for the CLG projects, we recoup almost all the money in grants.
Yes, it's 7,500.
Thank you for that, it would be.
That is so it is the CLG grant that the archaeological survey of that Y property is eligible for. So it is in this grant.
So we have 7,000 in revenue, which is part of Susan Rain's salary or pay, as well as the project expenditures. So we submit, it's not on our same fiscal year, but we submit for the grants every 6 months, and we receive the revenue for the grants. So this is covered in our revenue.
So it wouldn't reduce taxes if we reduce it?
Right, if we reduce the expense, we reduce the revenue. So there's no net impact to the budget.
To the tax part of the budget, yeah.
Right.
Well, we'll get the answer for you anyway. So what's the next thing?
Are you,
It shows 122% difference in that line. I don't understand how it doesn't increase the tax.
because we get revenue, we submit the project expenses for grant money, which we have in revenue.
And I just had one more question with what we were doing with the line in the next page, page 9, fire department.
I'm sorry, what?
Page 9,
Yes?
fire department,
Public service, you know. public
Yes.
Safety down there.
equipment line where it's highlighted where we had discussion with the chief. Is that staying in that line or are we moving it?
We'd like to leave 7,500 in that line and move the rest to establish a reserve fund where the committee would,
So if we were to update this sheet, the green lines could be removed.
correct, and the 20,000 would become 7,500.
And so then there'll be zero
But then you're
increase.
gonna put the rest of
Yeah,
it
we
in,
should-
they still want the 20,000.
Yeah,
The rest of it going over to another argument, you know.
the 12,500 would
Equipment.
still be in the
Right.
budget, but in a different.
In an
a
article.
reserve- In an article.
In an article.
Which is why I was asking about applying for the grants for that.
Next page, under recreation. Probably nobody here to answer this. Oh, the manager is here. Wages for maintenance. Who are we paying for maintenance?
That is Bruce's, I believe. That's
No,
the maintenance?
no, there's one employee.
Bruce's has his own line
Yeah,
somewhere else.
There's one employee for, wages for maintenance.
Maintenance? I'm not
I'm
following.
sure that's not Bruce.
Oh.
We
No,
have
I
a
think
guy.
it's Bruce.
I think that's Bruce.
Oh.
Yeah, it's Bruce.
There's multiple maintenance activities at that site. Bruce doesn't do all of the maintenance, but we did want to allocate his time roughly equal to where he actually does work.
How could we have spent 8,100 in 19 when we didn't have that position?
Because we contracted out. only in that point,
So my question is, what is this wages maintenance? If we have, I don't believe it's Bruce.
We'll check on
It's
it.
not.
It's not that position
It's
because
not
it was
Bruce
listed
Lee.
in 17, 18, 19.
It's not Bruce, we have an employee, a
We didn't have it.
temporary employee who works there, who does maintenance regularly. One of their days a week that they work, they submit hours for maintenance, Ryan signs off on it.
I don't understand that. We have a full-time maintenance guy.
Yeah.
It's $5,100. That's a
Did
lot
any
of money.
of Don's time go in there for
Dawn,
cleaning, swap?
Oh, fuck.
You know, the floors and cleaning and all that crap, is that what that, might have gotten some of that money been there?
we can look.
I don't know, where all the,
It might be buildings, grounds and
you
maintenance.
know, I mean,
It'd be interesting to know what it is. One year we've consistently, not consistently spent a lot of money in that. And now having a full-time maintenance position, I don't get it.
I thought last year that was Bruce, I mean, that's what I remember.
Yeah, I
is
thought
that
last
mine
year was.
I don't know,
Well,
well,
we'll-
look at
we'll
17,
check.
18, 19. If
Yeah,
it's-
but we have to remember, different people were inputting into these data, these quick, I don't know, the program that you use. So some things get allocated as wages maintenance when sometimes it could have been the cleaning guy, sometimes it could have been
Well, I'd
when
like
we
to
had
find
a.
out. I don't think it should be in a different line. If it's Bruce, then it should be maintenance.
Yeah, but we divvied it up amongst different, where he does his
Well, if it's
work.
not Bruce, I don't understand why we have that, if we now have full-time maintenance position. Next question in the same category. Buildings and ground maintenance.
Right, I was just looking at that.
That is a large number. This is another category that seems to not be on the right side every year, so.
Yeah, it was higher in FY18, they had, I think that's probably the repairs to the pool,
Mhm, I think
I
so.
suspect. And then last year, I remember there were repairs to the floors, so we'll find out what that is.
Find out what it is, but also, do we need to spend that much this year? Because we have to do something here.
So
And it's a
the
large
buildings-
item, and we now have a full-time maintenance
So
guy. That's a,
the buildings
Town.
and ground maintenance for FY '21, we're gonna fix the tennis courts and the basketball courts. They do that every other year. So they rotate things that get updated, and this, for FY '21, it's the tennis courts and the basketball courts that are up, that need to be updated. For cultural entertainment, we're carnival bands, movie on the projectors, and porta potties.
yeah, I didn't question any of those. It was large, that one, buildings and ground maintenance, and the other maintenance.
Yeah, so the,
Every 2 years, they resurface the basketball and the
and
tennis
the
court?
tennis courts,
Every 2 years?
every other year.
So,
Every
yeah,
2
every
years.
2 years,
Yeah.
yeah.
What?
Why?
do they resurface it or do they just seal it?
I don't
So
know, we
we
can
can-
find
Wilson and
out.
Lawrence, I worked for them, and they do that, and we never went back to a tennis court every other year for an asphalt court. Clay paddock is different, but those are asphalt.
Yeah, we'll check it out.
Upgrade your coating, I'd say. I mean, those two questions were it, and that, and then. So, next page, page 11, reserves, I did have a question mark, because it looks like we put 22,000 for meeting house fund.
Yep. Yeah, and it's highlighted.
What's in
So
that
that
fund right
could
now?
be,
Nothing, or,
no, we put money into it already, I think it's 20.
20 in there.
There's 40,000 in there, and along with the 22,000 in the grant for the plaster, that'll get us a good way through. The plaster repairs that were in the maintenance booklets you received last year when we were looking at, had plaster listed at something like $115,000. When we went through it with the architect, when Sue Ring went through it with Chris Cole, they identified that some of that work was done in maybe 2008 or 9, and they're thinking that with the plaster we had, the reserves we have, the grant and the reserves put in this year, it's possible that'll get us through the whole nut, and they won't have to come back for a phase 2. So that'll be clear in maybe a month.
In a month, that'll be clear? All right, so then, if we do need it, we were suggesting that have that be an article.
Okay.
So the idea of the Meeting House Reserve Fund is that it's an annual allocation, because the repairs that come up, being able to save for the roof when the roof needs to be.
I remember
Okay,
the long discussion we had, and some work got done this summer
yes,
from in-house.
exactly,
We
yes.
started, we neglected it for a long time, we're
Yeah, and
starting,
we're on a,
we're putting funds, we're putting money in the fund,
yes,
so we're moving in the right direction.
we are, it's great, taking care of it well, yes, as it should be.
And the residents are supporting it.
Next, page 12. I felt like there was I had a question for the theater equipment line, which never spent any, maybe spent 500 this year, and now we're proposing 5, but I also remember discussion of this popcorn machine, 4K projector in a different line. So what's this theater equipment $5,000 proposed expense here? Does anybody know? See it at the
Theater
bottom?
equipment? Oh.
Theater expense, theater equipment. It seems like we already have a line up there for that with the popcorn machine.
No, that's cinema. The theater was the piping and stuff that they wanted to, whatever that was, that they wanted to do,
Oh, that
the
was my
rigging.
question.
Was that it? I believe.
Theater equipment, there's $5,000 in there.
Or no, that's this,
That's
this,
in,
this
that's
year.
this
This
year.
year's. budget.
Right, let's look in the back. It's, a
No,
lot of the
sorry.
detail
That-
is in.
So this budget we're doing right now,
That wasn't the curtains or anything, was that?
No, that was,
5,000 proposed.
Yeah, no, there was proposed upgrades to the actual theater that they would be using for events, not the cinema aspect of it. So,
What is it?
that I'm not sure. We talked about, well, there's a long list that our people want,
Right.
proposing, but for this particular 5,000,
Wait, which
I
five
can't
thousand?
remember which one it is.
It's
This
about-
one is just the maintenance?
It's
No.
about
No,
the
no, no.
fifth line up, theater expense, then right above advertising, from the bottom up, Wendy. Theater equipment.
Yeah, .02,
Oh, I see.
110.
I know the theater committee was going to submit a letter to the select board.
Yeah, so
And
we
maybe
were,
that's coming next week,
we
I
were
don't
just
know,
allocating this
potential.
because there's so much that.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to know what it is, and then how
They're
do we go
sending
from?
a letter of proposed
Oh, yeah.
upgrades to the theater.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
So I think that's that coming next week, I don't know.
going from nothing,
Yeah, we need to hustle
or
on that.
going from nothing or 500 to 5,000 is a considerable increase. If we're trying to reduce our spending, we consider reducing that line.
But I think their thought was that you would have other paying performances in it if the equipment was there. So it would, in the end, pay it for itself. But this is something the theater committee is
If
sending a
we
letter
give
for.
discounts to most of the people that we rent it to, I don't think that's gonna
I
generate.
think they're talking about concerts and those kind of things, and that type of stuff.
Where we're supposed to sell concessions and charge
Yeah.
full price for rental, I think we should stick to that. That's how you make revenue.
Yeah, we think we should stick to that too.
And
generally-
also a full-time maintenance guy, a full-time maintenance guy.
Right.
So if it's
We took
$5,000 in material,
That's exactly
That's
it.
what
We
it was.
took the maintenance line out completely. We reduced it just to down to 500, in case it was something like an electrician or something that we needed, and we put the 5,000 in equipment.
Oh. If we could just find out what that's for, because it's been 500, 500,
Yep.
500.
It's-
Yeah,
The committee's working on that.
Great.
okay.
Holy cow, I have all that. I got page 14. Kind of answered it. I had a question about the incentive highlighted here, but we already talked about that. Page 15. We'd already talked about that. We took 50 grand out, right? For
Correct.
paving.
Off of the outside services, that we're talking about?
No,
Pavement.
pavement,
Oh,
leaving the
pavement.
pavement
Yes.
steady at 350 instead
Um,
of going up.
Sidewalks. Contract services, sidewalks. I don't think we can do that this year. We considered adjusting that. We've done a lot. I know there's a lot more to do, but we have to figure out where we're going to minimize some of this.
You're talking about the anticipated?
Yes.
Yeah, we only put 6,000 there, what we've already spent.
Talking about this budget.
You're
50
proposing
grand.
50 for this year, that's what he's saying.
Are you talking about next year? Okay, when you said this year, I thought you meant the year that we're in.
Budget that we're working on.
Yeah. So the 50,000, you wanna reduce that?
If I want to, I think we may have to. It's another option, something to look at.
Yeah.
I know we've done a lot of work, there's a lot more to do in that area. I think we're making ground, but that's a significant increase again. We still have 15 set aside to do Saxon River. It's already in the budget.
Mhm.
We did $15,000 worth of sidewalks. So I don't know, something to look at. That's a large number.
Yeah.
Did I ask? You're going to, Peter, I'm sorry, I have to wait, I have to get the Peter's attention. Wanted to ask a question, considering sidewalks, you were just talking about, you have $15,000 to spend in Sackers River. How much money are you allocating for Village of Bells Falls?
With 50,000 in the budget.
For that? I
Well-
mean, I was just thinking about things like
What year?
44, like your coming year, 44, the 44 steps, which you've been planning on
What year are you
doing
talking
work.
about?
Your new year,
50.
15, but you said something about
50.
Saxons River, that's why I wasn't sure
That's
which year you're
in-
talking about.
That's this.
FY20's budget.
That's this one.
So we already had that much to do. I'm thinking about what we've done, more work to do.
Need done.
Funding for it. We've done a lot. We've done a lot of sidewalks in this village.
I understand.
We've talked about the canal house section, have to coordinate with them. It's really bad.
Mhm.
The steps are really bad. I still think there's grants that
Yeah,
we're trying on. So what someone had proposed was $50,000 budget. And I'm asking if we could adjust that.
And if I may clarify, what I was asking, I wanted to know what you were allocating towards, since you said Saxons River, I wondered what, but that's for this year, not next year. And I don't know if you divide any of it up to make it equal, as we have a tri-board agreement to take care of sidewalks,
We did William Street.
this year. I know, but Bellows Falls is bigger than Saxons
In the
River.
19-20 budget,
Oh,
right?
no, we did.
In the
Bird
20 budget.
Street.
I'm not disagreeing about what's been
Yeah.
done, I'm simply
Yeah.
saying there's a tri-board agreement, and many years have gone by without Bellows Falls having their sidewalks and lighting and whatever the other third thing was, taken care of, that have been put off and pushed out, and the 44 steps and Canal Street haven't talked about it being repaired for some years and still have not gotten repaired. We did sidewalk in front of the 44 steps, but we didn't do the 44 steps.
We did more sidewalks in the last 2 years than we've done.
I know, but we pushed off, but for years, the select board pushed off doing
We're
it.
not.
Yeah.
We're not anymore.
I get that,
But I'm
just trying to see where you are with it.
well,
we want to fix them all. It's
I'm,
years in a row,
I understand.
I'm looking to reduce this budget.
You're as well aware as I am that wages are what eat most of the budget. And that's just the reality of it.
A lot of it we can't do anything about with a 2% increase.
You can. That's not negotiated yet, as you're well aware.
We can't
You could make it
discuss
1%, you could make it 0 for the first year, if that's what you're deciding to do. So you have the options to restrict your funds.
I agree
Yeah.
with wages.
I mean, I see that the docents are getting an increase, and I don't understand that because, I mean, it's not a lot, but it's a stipend, so I don't understand why that goes up. And then everybody's wages goes up, and you hired somebody else for the
Stipends are going
for the
up?
recycling. The docents, the ones who take care of the,
Meeting up?
I saw that it's not a huge increment, but it's up, and I didn't understand why, because it's a stipend. So like, for instance,
Because
You and
they
I-
make minimum wage and we have got to abide by minimum
wage,
laws.
this is only going up to $10.76.
For the first half of the year, it'll
Uh-huh.
be, $10.98, and then the second half of the year, it's going to go up again, so we
So
want to
you-
anticipate.
You're increasing it, but it's a
But
stipend.
that's minimum, no, it's not. They get paid minimum wage hours.
That's not what I understood it was a stipend. Okay.
No,
All
it's
right,
not.
then it's not. You and I receive stipends as board members,
I
as
don't have
elected
any of
officials.
that
So,
going up.
so I wasn't aware of that, but at the
That's
same
what-
time,
Well,
the number of, it's going up instead of going down, so,
evidently, the initial catalyst here was the sidewalk step, correct?
yes, that's
So
the initial
maybe-
subject.
This board and the other board should probably get together as the two of them and take a look at that agreement again, because I'm not so sure why Saxon River has a part in that agreement, because
They contribute nothing.
they contribute nothing.
Thank you.
Speaking of Seventh River, there is 15 in this
In the current
proposed,
year.
but,
This
no,
year.
the proposed
And
budget
the
too.
current, yes.
And that's,
Not in the proposal.
yeah, there is, right here.
And this budget for this year is
Proposed.
$15,000.
For Saxon River. It's not an increase, but it's proposed. But I thought, is that something that we can reduce because we didn't get to this sidewalks
Well,
in
you
Saxon
can.
River last year
Certainly don't understand.
because of the park?
Mhm.
And there was a reason it wasn't spent. And that work is, I believe Everett said was gonna happen in the spring, but within this fiscal year.
Right, it's gonna happen in the spring, with the 15,000 plan for this fiscal year.
Right, but was there other sidewalks that needed to be done in the summer? And then maybe we can reduce the Saxon River 15.
Maybe we can look at that.
Because they will be getting sidewalks done in May or June.
Yeah, I believe this was for additional sidewalks, not the ones that are gonna be done this year, but we'll check.
Well, like she's saying, if we didn't do the ones, so.
I mean, we
we
might
don't
be able
need
to
do
hold off a year
$30,000
on.
in sidewalks in Saxon River.
Yeah, we might be able to hold off on that for a year unless that is needed to complete the
Yeah.
budget review. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll check that.
That's it for me for now.
Can we go back to page 6 under planning and zoning? I know Chuck explained that once, but I'm just questioning what the summer internship is for $1,760.
It's
Are
an
we bringing your person in?
Yeah,
Why are we bringing your person in?
he had a whole write-up, I think, that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a revenue source for it too.
And there is a revenue source, but it's 8 weeks. It's going to be a local student, or there's credentials. They have to be local, they have to be in school, and they would do a significant amount of work. So it's 8 weeks, 20 hours per week.
So
About-
we have an assistant.
High school kids,
We have an
Yeah,
assistant.
no,
We're
that's-
gonna hire
That's
a
what it
community
is.
service.
high school kid. I mean, we got an assistant sitting out there.
Well, no, they're gonna pay someone. You
Yeah,
get
but
them.
But I'm just saying, we got
grant
an
that's
assistant, so
coming in.
now we're gonna hire an intern
There's
to come in.
grant-
Doesn't make any sense to
There's
me.
grant money associated with it, and it's a good opportunity, and it would get a lot of stuff done, but it's $1,760, and we'll receive it in grant money.
So without the grant, there wouldn't be that in the line. So there's a grant coming in to serve this, so you have to have the opposite in the expense.
Yeah.
And it's a college level job, because it gets pretty technical, the zoning stuff. And there are kids who are interested in being planners. He also wants to get, and it's not just him, actually, I think it's the planning commission.
You
But-
don't really want me to speak to this item because I disagreed. I was probably the only person who said no. I thought that perhaps they could work a plan out with the superintendent and give them credit instead. That they could do it as a training apprenticeship program, which did not necessarily require payment. If they were receiving education in exchange, which is useful as they're heading to college, especially if you find someone who is looking at planning and zoning. Right, exactly. I thought that that would have been appropriate. I didn't think this is, and there's no guarantee of the grant. There's not a guarantee.
Well, if there's no guarantee of a grant, then.
But that's not, no, I'm sorry, just so you're aware, the planning commission voted, except for myself, otherwise unanimous, to do this with or without the grant. So you might want to get back to Chuck. So if the grant doesn't come, it doesn't necessarily offset. And of course, it's only during the summer. And I understood the desire to do that to accomplish more and get more done. But I did not agree with paying them.
Right, there was some discussion about having it be a non-paid.
Right, it could have been, again, it could have been credit, the same way the state of Vermont is getting college students or whatever to come in as apprentices in legislature because they need assistance and they can't get enough of them. And they receive something in exchange, but it's not funding.
Right, but then others on the planning commission felt very strongly that it should be paid.
Right, so I
That's
didn't
how it
agree with
ended.
them, but that's what they decided.
Yeah.
Anybody else got anything?
We made notes of those.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we'll bring back the menu with all of these options.
Just give us another one of these updated.
And, yep, totally, and then this, actually, same one for you, because this is hot off the press, this is an updated,
I have them.
oh, okay, version of the, option one where we took off Burt Blake, because that was already finished, and we added on the Depot Street Bridge. That was the difference here.
Can I ask a question? How much does it cost to print it?
Probably about,
We
Seriously.
went over this, but you said you wanted budget material printed. Because we said we can email you all the stuff we hand you in a meeting, and
probably
you said no.
20 cents.
But I'm curious to know, like, we get 7 of these that we already have.
That was new, actually, you didn't.
It's not, how much is that?
I think it's about 20.
How much is this? These are examples of things I look at.
Well,
We mail-
I said,
we mail
let's do
those
a
flyers.
board email sign up. If you'd like to receive all material via,
I do, that's what I said.
right, but then you said, except for the budget stuff, it's really important.
I don't need,
Well, I have a preference to hard copy myself. I'm sorry, it's complicated. It's kind of hard to read on this thing.
So Gaetano and Ben want everything via email. Susan?
I don't mind our packet email, but, yeah, I mean, I could print this at home if I wanted to.
Right,
but-
okay.
This should be the last one of this that you get. And
But I mean, these are
it's only
nice
the
when it's
second
looking
one.
for a longer term plan, so.
Right, and I mean, my feeling, when you're talking about millions of dollars of expenditures, that the better the information is in front of you, that makes a difference.
I don't disagree with that, but maybe we should wait until it's ready and then prepare it. So we don't get 3 of them. We don't get updated things. That wasn't right. That's my concern.
I understand.
When it comes to
Right,
the way we spend money here is shocking to me. That's why I'm here. That's an example of something, okay? It's not directed at anyone.
No, I
We look at
understand what you're saying.
reducing
Yeah.
spending.
right.
If we'd have had this one time prepared, I think that's a good value for your sheet of paper. How many of these did we get before we
Just
got this
one,
one?
actually.
No,
That's your second one. You're getting a lot
And
less
that's
than
why you
last year,
don't
actually.
even have all the changes, because I've been waiting to update it until we have enough stuff to update. But if you guys have tablets or laptops too, if we email you, you could bring those in and just pull your stuff up on them too.
It's just that's hard to say.
Yeah, it's hard, I mean, I also like the paper to write notes, I'm constantly writing notes on the actual paper, but.
I do too, but the first sheet we had, I had all my notes on. And then we get more, and I have 2 more of these. they just said we have one more. I have two of them. I had all my notes, so then I like to write notes and then use it for reference to look at things.
Well, I only have two.
Okay, moving along, is there anything else?
No,
Sue, do you have something?
No, I'm all set for right now.
I just have a point of clarification while we're in here, but the theater ceiling that keeps falling down, what is the plan for that?
well, the immediate plan was to secure it like this, which was done, which was, plastic to keep the pieces from falling on our customers. The next stage is to repair it, but we need to check on the roof drains. The roof itself is fine, or we have, it's not great, but we have another 5 years on the roof itself, but the roof drains may have an issue. So we want to check on the roof drains, and then fix it in the winter, fix the plaster in the winter.
So what is this, duct tape?
Duct tape and clear plastic.
Yeah.
How about we use white duct tape down in the theater, because it'd be more appropriate with the roof, with the ceiling?
He's already done it, so it's
He's
probably.
already done it, huh?
Oh, yeah, well, because we had a show coming.
Yeah, well, I understand that, but I
We
mean,
had kids coming.
stands out. I guess if you want to prove a point, I guess it stands out.
Well, I don't think there was any proving point. I mean, probably
Where are we
white.
on?
We're still talking about the budget because,
I have a comment.
um,
With the ceiling.
so is there repairs scheduled for that, to repair that?
Bruce is scheduled to repair it. But then if we need extra help, we're looking at, we have a list of plaster companies that we'll talk to if necessary, but we don't know if it's gonna be necessary or not.
And that
Because
can come out of the reserve fund that we created the other day, last year.
Last year.
The town hall reserve. Yeah, it'll take you guys doing something, but yes.
Well, that's what I'm getting at, because looking at the theater minutes, there's two different comments. In August, or October, September, you stated that they were gonna be done this year, the repairs. And then in the following month, October, when we got it, you said this is gonna be done in the coming year budget. So I'm just trying to figure out where we stand.
I don't know which, exactly what you're talking about. But if you're talking about the plaster repairs,
On the theater.
on the ceiling, the ceiling repairs that are needed to stop the ceiling from falling, the intermediate repairs are scheduled for the winter. So that's this budget year, and they have been. I don't know if there was a different set of repairs that you're talking about.
I don't know either, because of those theater committee minutes are not very clear.
Okay.
What repairs to stop it from falling? What are you referencing, the roof or the
No,
ceiling?
no, the ceiling.
Ceiling.
To stop pieces from falling, like
In the
they
theater.
were, right. It's the same kind of thing, though. It's the
Someone
same
budgeted
ceiling.
that last year.
Uh,
I brought it up
no,
to this,
we programmed
to
it
you,
into,
2 months ago, 3 months ago, no one had noticed it.
no, people have noticed it.
No, when I mentioned it, nobody knew what I was talking about.
It's been planned to be a winter work project.
It's also down the wall quite a bit too,
I know,
so
I know.
have we, we're gonna,
That's part of the project.
do we know where it's coming from? What's causing it? That would be the first thing to fix.
That's the roof drains are a possibility. That's what we need to check out, are the roof drains, not the roof itself.
It's always been a problem, because when Pepper was here, Pepper would go up and at least once or twice a week, and he'd check those drains to make sure they were clear, especially when
Clear.
the leaves started coming down,
Right,
and then when the snow started to build up.
that's
And
my
nobody's
understanding.
doing it now,
Well, Bruce is doing it weekly.
so.
He's clearing the drains. I haven't heard by.
And he used to clear them out.
So do we,
Yeah, that's what he says he's doing now. That's what.
Who says? Who's-
Bruce.
Oh, okay. Oh.
you do know that that's what's causing it, or you don't?
We don't, but we suspect that. That if there is a leak, it would be from those drains. That is what I have been told.
We've had people in here with $200,000 estimate for the roof at one point.
2017, I think.
Nothing
Well-
wrong with the roof.
Well, whatever, the roof has a good 5 years on it, but we do need to start planning for other things in this building. So we need to look at the roof.
There's nothing wrong with the roof though. There's something leaking in the theater, ruining the ceiling. We should probably fix that before we get plaster estimates. What are we waiting for to fix this? What is this?
That's the
This-
same thing. It's
This
the-
tape. Well, what is that? Why don't we just fix it? Or full-time maintenance position should be able to knock that off, skim coat it, paint it.
He can if he has enough time. I mean, those are pretty good
We're gonna
chunks.
spend, I'm not sure how long building a salt shed. That's minimal work. I thought we were waiting for something to fix this. That's normal.
Well, we are waiting for the, this is inside work. He does need to get the salt shed done first.
It's gonna take how long?
The sand shed, I should say.
You said possibly next year?
No,
It's
it'll
a
be done
shed.
before Christmas. What are you the sand shed you're talking about? At Blake Street. That's 2 weeks, hopefully, by Christmas, definitely, is the plan for this shed.
And then
And then this
that
is, this
position
is
is
a
gonna
winter
fix
project.
this and that, the ceiling in the theater and the ceiling here,
That's
right?
the
We're not
plan.
gonna pay an outside
That's the
plaster
plan.
company?
That's the plan, yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
After
we'll-
we confirm where it's, whatever's causing the damage in the theater.
Yeah, yeah. Looking at the roof drains is the plan.
He's been up there once a week, he did?
That's what he says, yeah,
That's what he says?
yeah. And he evidently didn't know about that initially, so it's good that he knows that. But that's a pretty high maintenance requirement.
Standard maintenance. Big building, a lot to do,
Yeah,
gotta do
and
it.
then there's all the other buildings, yeah, there's
Go, go, go.
a lot to do.
Okay, we done here for that one? Go over review agenda items for the next meeting. Of course, we're gonna budget on it again.
Oh, yeah.
Anything else?
Hospital and
Yeah, and hold on.
health insurance.
Financials, we're gonna do the financials anyway, so.
Yeah, the library budget, you're gonna have, errors and omissions from the listers. Probably the finance and maintenance agreement with the Church Street Bridge, if we can get it ready for you. I don't think that it's an
Church
emergency.
Street.
That's what they call the Arch Street,
Oh,
Old Arch.
okay, yeah,
So my discussions with them right now are, I told them that we may want to pay for 1 or 2 lights. Right now, we're just paying for 1 light.
I don't see why we should pick it. I know I mentioned safety, but we're already paying for 1 light on this side of the bridge. You know, Walpole should step up and cover that.
If you want to say 1 light, that's fine. I heard you say,
Yeah, no, I understand
as a
that.
group, 2 lights. So if you want to change
Yeah, I
that,
don't remember the 2
but I was
lights,
gonna
but-
bring you options.
Well, we're gonna look at options
For
too.
that.
If we can get them running for nothing and
Yeah.
Well, you won't get them for nothing.
What
get
about the
it-
solar?
keep them
lights?
running for nothing.
It's,
Solar.
it's,
It's 2019.
yeah, well, then we're gonna end up paying for fixtures, because the solar fixtures aren't cheap, and we would have to pay for them.
Well, yeah, but that isn't cheap. I think they quoted at the meeting in Walpole, $1,400 or night. The gentleman that was here the night here was $1,400 a month or something like that
For what?
for the lights on the bridge.
No.
No.
No,
30
right now,
something or
no, it's
60
like
something?
60 a month.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
not
$60 a month?
Yeah.
For regular electricity, not solar.
Well, okay, I may be outnumbered on this one, but I believe he said something, it was over $1,000 a month.
No, we pulled the electric bill. I called
You're outnumbered.
Well,
For our light,
there were crazy
not for their
numbers.
lights.
There were crazy
Because
numbers.
Green Mountain Power doesn't do their lights,
But if those numbers weren't right.
okay?
But someone did say it. You're right that someone said it.
That's
but-
right,
But
somebody
they were
did
not
say it.
correct about the cost.
All right.
We, Rebecca talked to Green Mountain Power about it directly, which is really the only way to do it. So.
Yeah, but
so
Green
we
Mountain
know.
Power doesn't do New Hampshire light,
Right.
But they are who we would pay to do lights.
really.
Yes, and who we do pay to do lights.
That's gonna be on the
Right.
agenda?
But I don't believe that's who we
Discuss it then.
paying to do
Yes.
these lights on the.
Okay.
Yeah, no, the light that is on the bridge now
Right.
is a Green Mountain Power light.
Yeah,
So that's,
so we could just put a brighter one there so it shines.
Let's
more.
talk about it on the
Next
17th,
week.
Stephanie.
okay,
Okay.
if it's ready.
Anything
And
else?
then health insurance is on that also.
Okay. joint board meeting, January, whenever, it's.
Yeah, I was
always
thinking the
out.
28th, maybe. We'll start to float that.
That's the last Thursday, Tuesday of the month, is that right?
I think it's not, because the last Tuesday, I think, is New Year's Eve.
No, I mean, in January, the last.
Oh, I'm sorry, getting ahead of myself, or behind. Yes, that's the,
Fifth Tuesday?
that's the fourth Tuesday. Wait, what was it? Oh, no, so that would be select board, actually. So you might do a sequential meeting, if you want to have a joint meeting in January. Right now, we don't have any pressing issues that I know of.
Okay. Orders, bills, and warrants. Motion,
Motion to approve the orders, bills, and warrants.
second.
Second.
Motion made, seconded to approve the orders, bills, and warrants. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor would say aye. All those opposed, no.
Peter, that wasn't on your agenda.
It
That
is.
was warned, right? Didn't you add it afterwards?
We have a revised agenda.
Highlight it?
It
Yeah,
got
but-
sent out about 4:45.
Yeah, which means you might, technically,
Technically.
you need to ratify that motion, that's all.
Right.
That's it.
Thank you, Debbie.
Keep me on the straight and narrow.
Other business, Sue,
I'm all set.
Donna,
Did we get an update on the truck and what we're gonna do, or is it too early?
We don't know that, I mean, I can tell you, it is one of the older trucks. Was scheduled to be replaced next year, as I think I told you. So when we get a repair estimate in, we'll look at it in relationship to what it would, to the expense for next year. So we won't just repair it automatically.
Well, it's an insurance thing. We already met our deductible for the year.
Oh, okay.
And it would be covered 100%.
Oh, so then we will do that.
So I had
Okay.
already approved for it to be,
Okay.
it's gonna be up and running tomorrow.
so if they
Oh.
told.
Really?
Really?
Yeah.
That was my question.
Wow.
It's
Thank you very much. That's fantastic.
Sorry,
You should've told
but
me.
the deductible.
Wait a minute, so
We had already.
that truck will be up and running tomorrow?
Yeah, we
So
had,
it's not as, everybody's okay, it's not as bad as it seemed,
yeah.
it'll be running
And we've
tomorrow?
already met our deductible for the year, so it seems silly not to.
Outstanding.
Okay,
Excellent, thank you. Another question.
good.
We have discussed, I had mentioned a Facebook page for information purposes. I think somebody was working on one. I'm wondering where we're at with that. When I look at all of these lines of advertising, and when we have a road closed, when we have schools canceled, when we have this event that I don't know how much we've spent, where are we at with that?
Have you talked to Dominion recently?
Yeah, so.
Where's the manager? Oh,
Well, I mean,
We talked.
I don't know everything.
I'm just wondering where we're at, because I think it could contribute to a lot of, I looked at a lot
Yeah.
of advertisements, and I'll use the Santa's Express for an example.
So-
They
We're
did,
gridlocked from social media sites here at the municipality through the network. So we're working to establish for just a few of us who would maintain a Facebook page
great,
to get access to it, but it's being proven more.
It's taking a long time.
And
What
they
do you mean?
escalate.
But we're not gonna go and hire a firm, we can do this
No,
ourselves.
no, we're
That's
just working
what
with, we're
Facebook
just
does.
working. What
Doesn't cost
happened,
anything.
I know that.
Let them finish because
No, what
it's
happened was,
law.
they, in the past, Facebook was blocked from all municipal access, which I understand why.
in this building?
Well,
Townwide,
If you're on-
village-wide.
Not correct.
No,
No,
from,
not if
on
you're using your
own
cell phone data, but if you're hooked into our internet anywhere or our network, so if you're on your work computer and you're hooked into our network anywhere, water, wastewater,
Can't go
garage
on Facebook.
here, or if you're hooked
What
into,
people
on,
use.
to our Wi-Fi on your cell phone, public or
Okay.
private,
I understand that, but is that the holdup? Why don't we just
Yeah.
use
yeah.
2 cell phones and make it happen and get the information out and use it for information?
We want to have an official Facebook page, so it will happen. It's taking longer than we thought it would. We want to be able to post videos, we want to be able to post meetings, and have an official
You
page.
can do it all with a cell phone. Cell phones are computers.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
put 2
I'm sure we
administrators,
can
3,
do it.
Well, and that's,
and it's free. That's my point.
Oh, yeah, oh, no, I
All
know.
this, the money up for the banner, I don't know what we spend on
Cody paid for
a
it.
lot of things in general, a lot of things in advertising, printing,
True, but certain,
information. It's free service that works really well.
So,
But certain things, it's much easier, say you want to put a link to the agenda and the packet. You're not gonna, it's harder to do that from the cell phone when it's right there on the administrator's
Establishing the
computer.
the Facebook
Might be
page
harder, but it's not
initially.
impossible.
Right, establishing the page initially on the phone would be more difficult than if we could open up a computer and do it.
And you also want to make it interactive with photos and all that kind of stuff, which, I mean, I just see, I mean, I have a work Facebook page, and I cannot do anything on my phone on the work. I much easier on my computer to do it. So,
and we will be able to do it. It's, the firewall is more complicated than it needs to be. The next version of the firewall is gonna be simpler, and we won't have this problem, is what I've been told. But we're just having to work through
We'll
it.
follow up with the mini tech tomorrow.
Yeah,
We have a ticket.
Well, it's good you're working on it. That was originally my question, is coming
we've
along.
been working on it.
I think it'll be
month.
great for information, like it's
Yeah.
immediate information.
Stephanie, do you have any?
we may want to take a look at some point, that tri-board agreement there, because I'm not so sure if that ought to be a tri-board agreement. Reference the, villages pit on Darby Hill and the exchange for lights and sidewalks or type stuff. It's a joint discussion maybe.
Anything else?
No.
All right, this is something that came up at another meeting, BFADC, but it involves a CASP, C-A-S-P program. What it is Central American immigrants coming into the state of Vermont. There's a program set up where they can spend up to $300,000. Correct me if I'm wrong there, Gary, but I think I saw $300,000 or something set aside from the Boston Federal Bank for that program. And what it does is gets these people into the state, and then once they get here, you have to house them and whatever. And what they do is they work their way towards getting a work permit so they can go to work here, and eventually claim citizenship, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Well, so CASP is the Asylum Seekers Project, and they're a local nonprofit in Rockingham. That I think they allocate about $10,000 per family or per person that they're getting set up. It's volunteer based. Someone donates a home, they take them into their home. The program, the $300,000 that you're talking about. BDCC is applying regionally for Working Communities Challenge Grant with the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston. That the first level is 6 communities are awarded a $15,000 planning grant, and during the 6 months, which is this January to this June, they plan the project basically, which. This project is expanding on the CASP idea, and more than asylums, it's looking to recruit immigrants to the area. The piece it's modeling from CASP is how they integrate into the community, how they help them find jobs, how they work with the language barriers, introduce them to police, shopping, people they're going to have to interact with, where they might not, at first glance, be accepted normally. They don't speak English well. How do they get integrated to English? So what this program is looking to do is expand on the CASP that's just the asylum seekers and expand it to immigration in general, and help refill the population where there's been population decline, and work with companies to fill jobs where they haven't they haven't been able to fill them. They have a lot of openings, that there's not enough people seeking that type of employment. So that's basically the program, and Rockingham is one of the priority communities, and that's in the BDCC region. So there's a priority community in Windham County and one in Bennington County that they're developing this program in. And so if they're accepted after the planning grant, so 6 communities in Vermont will get that planning grant, and then 3 of those will then be awarded the 3-year, $300,000 grant to implement the program that's developed. So that's, so
Yeah, I've
basically.
been asked to discuss this with a couple of people, one of them is Laura Sevilla. And so I was just trying to get a feeling from the board, what everybody thought about this, as to, do we want to, this thing we're interested in getting into, we don't even want to bother with it, or what's everybody's feeling here? That, so I can transfer it to them.
I think it's a great idea. They're gonna give resources for bringing in people into the community, I think it's great. I mean, they're doing it already as a nonprofit, you know, people are sponsoring money, I mean, CASP itself. This will add resources to something that's already happening.
And
And they're all legal immigrants too.
Yes, legal immigrants, region-wide for southern Vermont.
Asylum seekers.
The asylum seekers are legal, and this program is looking to establish a legal immigration strategy.
So what resources would be required from the town of Rockingham?
It's, there's not a match. BDC is running the program. So there's nothing required of Rockingham. It would be a good gesture if we support it, to provide a letter saying that we support it, to add to their grant application. But we don't need to. It would be a good show of support if you in fact do support that.
Well, I'll bring some more information back once we meet with these people, with Laura and stuff, to see where it goes. Because right now I'm not clear on it myself, so I just want to get feeling from the board what they thought.
Were there specific thoughts or questions that you had, or concerns that?
Well,
Okay.
one of my thoughts was simply that, you know, we're getting people, immigrants, to come in here, but yet we can't help our own people because there's no funding to do that. So, you know, it's sort of a catch-22 for me, I think. You know, we're trying to recruit and keep our own populace, people that get out of school and stuff, and we can't keep them here, but yet we can find grant money to bring in immigrants. And I just realized too that these immigrants will take whatever job is available. Some of them it's flipping burgers or mopping floors, but they want to improve their quality of life. So I get that part of it, but I guess I don't get the part where if we can afford to bring the immigrants here and to do that, why aren't we able to find resources to help and retain our own people?
I think we do. There are, BDCC runs a number of programs. They have a staff that's in Bellows Falls Union High School that works with them. I think they touch every single student with that. It's called pipelines, career pipelines, pathways to pipelines, P2P, and they do work with every single student in the high school. I think in the sophomore year. And they have partner employers in the community, and they will, for the students who want to find out what it's like to work, say at Chroma or Sonax or somewhere in town here, they'll get that
You
student.
just had that whole presentation.
Yes. Yeah. So they do have programs. Yeah. I'm just responding to there are programs to help the people that are here to attract them and retain them. I think we, in Vermont, we have a lot of programs to help people that want to stay here. I mean, 18-year-olds leaving high school, a lot of students travel, go to cities for 10 years, and you see people move back at 30, 35. That won't change with, more programs. The ones who want to stay, there are certainly, we have programs for them.
Okay. The other thing I had is, you guys mentioned you wanted to talk to me about the budget numbers and stuff. I think there should be some sort of consensus of board that allows me to do that.
What do you
What do you mean, sorry?
Because
reference.
any one person can't act it on their own,
Right.
so
But
technicality.
when you talk about budget items.
Well,
The
the
recycling
numbers that
center,
they
et
wanted to
cetera.
talk to me.
Oh, about the recycling?
Yeah, well,
Oh, yeah,
recycling or any of the
that's
budget
fine.
part numbers, I mean.
Well, we can talk to any of you individually
Yeah.
about it.
I don't have any problem,
as
we make
long
the
as-
decisions here.
Yeah, we're not making
Right.
decisions.
Okay, well, just cover the
Feel free
base,
to talk about it.
so. All right, anything else? No need for an executive session I know of. Should say contracts on here.
Yeah, that's old.
Okay. I'll take a motion to adjourn then.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All those in favor would say aye.
Aye.
See you tomorrow at the event. You guys want to be there?